before we get into the episode here, our Western Conference version of the Russillo and Simmons predictions and our own over-unders, we have to talk about whether we want a mulligan post Karl Anthony Towns trade on our Knicks prediction from the Patreon episode we did last week. If you want access to that, sign up. Link is in the description for the Patreon episode that we did where we did the Eastern Conference over-unders. And we have to talk about the Knicks because obviously they trade for Karl Anthony Towns. We'll get to Minnesota a little bit later and their Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo new team. But do you want a mulligan? Because you went over on and now the line is different. So I think we can give ourselves a little bit of leeway here since an impactful trade has happened.
Yeah, was the line was 53.5.
It's 54.5 now.
It went up.
So it went up a win, and I went under, you went over.
Do we want to redo it at the 54.5 line?
I think we redo it at 54.5.
Okay.
Because it doesn't make any sense to do 53.5 since that isn't the line. They at least think that the Karl Anthony Towns trade will add a win.
Yes. So I will probably stick with the over.
I'm going to stick with the under. So we're both not taking a mulligan on this.
Yes.
I've thought about this Karl Anthony Towns trade all weekend. If you want access to our instant reaction that we recorded on Friday, that's also on the Patreon. But that was kind of a jumbled thought, free stream of consciousness. We were trying to figure it out on the fly. And I still have not come closer to having a conclusion on this Knicks team. I'm still kind of split about how they're going to perform. In a way, I think they got better. I think that Karl Anthony Towns gives them great spacing for the 5 spot. Like we talked about, it really opens things up for Jalen Brunson. And by the way, speaking of mulligans, those Jalen Brunson MVP odds, we talked about him being a dark horse for like a 5th ballot guy on MVP, plus 1,800. Pretty good odds considering the fact that you think that they're going to win over 54.5 games. Yeah. He's going to have the media in his corner. And more importantly, I think this opens things up for his game with Towns spacing the floor and opening up the paint for him in a way that I didn't feel like they really had before. Like I was fading them a little bit just because the Mitchell Robinson injury and the center position being so weak. And now you remove Julius Randle, who they thrived without Julius Randle last year. You add in Karl Anthony Towns while you still have your defensive question marks with him. I think that is probably a pretty good value bet, but I'm kind of where I'm at with the Knicks right now is like, I think this team is going to be very good, very top heavy. And I think that the reason why I'm sticking with the under, this is the only reason, is because I still think that they have 5 really good players. Their starting 5 is great. Mm-hmm. And then the OG thing is like, if OG misses 20 to 25 games, what does their team look like? Because Mitchell, and if that happens early in the season while Mitchell Robinson's still out and they're not able to make a trade for him, like who is playing for them? And like, is Tibbs still playing them 45 minutes a game? Like, can you play OG that many minutes? I know you could do that with Bridges. I'm pretty sure you could do it with Brunson and Hart, but like OG's a guy who's had serious injury history. He's missed a ton of games and now they're thinner. So that style, to me, is just going to be limiting for them in the regular season. I like them a little bit better as a playoff team, but I don't think that they made the matchup better against the teams that they're going to have to beat necessarily, if that makes sense.
That's kind of where I came down because I think that I said it like it inverted my thing. Because I do think like adding KAT to this team is like the great like it adds a lot of variance, I think, to the Knicks in the playoffs, like, which I think is good. Like, I think you want that in the playoffs to a certain extent. So, like, because I think they are trying to catch up to Boston. I still think Boston is a better team. And, you know, it does give them a little bit more shooting and it makes them a little bit more versatile. But they, at the end of the day, they still didn't get, like, meaningful. You still got to beat the, for example, you have to beat the 76ers. You're probably going to have to beat the Bucks, and you're almost certainly going to have to beat the Celtics at some point. So all of those teams, it's not great matchups. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand that it's like, well, they have Mikal Bridges for Jason Tatum, and it's like, okay, but Jason Tatum isn't the Celtics' best player. You know what I'm saying? Like,
okay, but hold on. Yeah. I like this was the point I liked that people have brought up. Will brought this up to me. A few other people talked about it.
Yeah.
In the Celtics matchup, they're going to have Brunson and KAT on the court a lot. And while offensively, I think that makes them a fierce offensive team, and they're going to be really hard to guard with that spacing, with that just like amount of just scoring punch and skill between Bridges, Brunson, and KAT. Defensively, those two in guarding a 5-out system that Boston has on their own, you have to consider like you're not like you got OG and McHale to slow down the Jays, and that makes sense. But Boston thrives when they hunt on these matchups. Like they're gonna find ways to attack Karl Anthony Towns. They're gonna find ways to attack Jalen Brunson in a way that I don't know if they'll be able to do that on the other end as well. Like I think Boston will be able to hold up defensively, whereas I don't know if the Knicks are going to be able to hold up defensively with this iteration. And I'm assuming that look, every time I say they're done making trades, they make another fucking trade somehow. So maybe they make another trade that they get a Dorian Finney-Smith or someone else that just makes their wing rotation a little bit more solid and they can survive an injury or whatever. But for right now, I think that they are the Boston matchup isn't super strong for them.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think the Sixers matchup is good for them right now. Embiid is gonna destroy them. Like Hartenstein was a huge part of that, and maybe Randall could have mitigated that a little bit. Like at least he's sturdy.
I think they're gonna put OG on Embiid, and he's historically done pretty good guarding him. But the difference is that instead of having a Mitchell Robinson lurking behind him or a Hartenstein lurking behind him, now it's Karl Anthony Towns.
Fair enough.
I'm not really sure how that works. If OG is healthy himself, regardless of Embiid's health, like if OG is healthy himself, I think that he'll probably take that assignment. We'll see. I don't know. I don't hate the Sixers matchup for them, to be honest. Like I think that they're a pretty evenly matched team, but the Sixers' biggest question mark is at the top with Embiid's health as always. And then the Knicks' biggest question mark is if any of their top 5 guys get hurt, like, can they survive in a way that they did last year? Like where it was like this next man up thing and they lost guys. Yeah. But I still fall back on the logic that removing Julius Randle and adding Karl Anthony Towns, even with Karl Anthony Towns' issues that he had in the Western Conference Finals, is just an upgrade for the playoffs. Yeah. Julius Randle's the worst player in the NBA. Yes. I feel like I feel like because he got hurt, everyone forgets that. But like historically speaking, his 2 times he's played in the playoffs, he has like the worst true shooting since the fucking 40s. Yeah. No, like he's worse than DeMar DeRozan on the Raptors.
Yeah. Yeah. It's terrible. It's terrible. And I think to kind of go back to the Knicks thing to why I'm over is you're correct. Like they did get thinner. Like all of a sudden Miles McBride is really fucking important. There's like all sorts of other things, but I do think what we're talking about, you can get any replacement level player, like just in restrict. There are guys right now who are like replacement level players that you can just sign that like don't have an NBA team right now. Like Lonnie Walker is on an Exhibit 10. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's going to catch up with them in the playoffs being shallow like that. Like you do need like a legitimate like 7 to 8 good guys. But I think in the regular season you can kind of piecemeal together a rotation like that, especially with like Tibbs playing them not as much. So I'm like not as concerned about that in the regular season, even if somebody gets hurt. Like
Markelle Fultz going to sign with the Knicks. I guess they don't really need point guards. Like, no. I mean, like they have Campaign, I think is better than Markelle Fultz, to be honest. They just drafted Tyler Kolek. Yeah. Juice McBride's also a point guard. Like if anything, they need wing play and they need I think they've leaned fully into this Helio Brunson thing. Like they've decided Brunson is going to be the guy that scores 32 points a game for us next year. He'll have 32 points and 8 assists. And he'll be, the sun and the moon, and he'll be everything for us, and everything will gravitate around him with shooting and defense. And, Towns is the defensive question mark. He was better defensively last year. He also played on a team that had great defensive infrastructure. This team should have good infrastructure with Bridges and OG with him. But that OG piece is probably the most important, keeping him healthy and making sure that he can play, 70 games this year instead of his usual 50 or 60 will probably be the massive piece of this. So anyway, if you want more of that stuff, sign up for the Patreon. We talked about all of our thoughts on there. Now we're going to dive directly into the Western Conference, our over-unders for that. First up,
Let me try to guess. We have the Dallas Mavericks.
we do have the Dallas Mavericks. The alphabetical order stuff is a little bit different in the West. So Dallas is the first.
I'm going to guess this one.
Okay.
I think I'm going to nail it exactly. I'm going to see 47.5.
49.5.
Wow.
Very close to what you said, but you've been within 1 or 2 on most of these guesses. So 49.5. Dallas coming off of the NBA Finals last year, adding Klay Thompson, adding Quentin Grimes, adding Najee Marshall, losing Derrick Jones Jr., losing Josh Green. Pretty much a similar team to last year, just with a few different pieces. Obviously, Klay is the big addition. I would imagine he starts for them, even if I don't love that idea. They won 50 games last year. They made their trade for PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford at the deadline. They were much better in the second half of the year into the playoffs. How do you feel about this one? First off, what do Bill and Russillo think about this one?
The Mavericks. I think Russillo is over and Simmons is under.
We do this for everyone.
I know, but I feel pretty strongly about this one. Bill is going to hate that Luka was fat this summer.
100%.
Yeah,
That's
Bill,
definitely happening.
Yeah, Bill is going to be like, I want a little professionalism. You were just in the finals. Come on, you're right there, and this is what your leader is doing? Coming in, call him Luka Hot Dogs, House. He looked like you out there.
Yeah. The all-time greats, LeBron, loses in 2011. What does he do the next season? Comes back in better shape.
Yeah.
Wants to set the world on fire. These guys, when they lose, they get that fire under them when they lose in the NBA Finals. Will Luka really learn? All we're hearing is that he's just doing the same things, House. He's doing the same things.
Look. We've seen this guy play himself into shape, right? And and that's great when you're in your 20s, but take it for B. Once you start getting older, you got to take better care of your body. That's why I'm doing, I'm getting to the gym 7 days a week, 8 days a week, 9 days a week. I'm making it happen. Look, Luka's a young guy. He's got to figure that out. But I don't know. You're going to get a full season of Gafford and PJ Washington. Was Washington shooting Fugazi? I don't know.
You'd imagine Lively will take some steps.
Yeah. Dropping the result. I think Russillo talks himself into this one. I didn't realize they won 50. In my mind, they had won 47 last year. They won more games than I thought. They really did kind of catch fire in Mickey Mouse March, huh?
Well, it wasn't very Mickey Mouse. They made it to the finals. So, yeah.
Well, we'll see.
Well, this is my take. This is what I wanted to get to my point.
Yeah.
They're the new Miami Heat to me. I think they're better in the regular season than the Miami Heat, who tend to be towards the lower half. But their seeding could be, it doesn't matter. It's completely irrelevant to who they are as a playoff team. They will almost certainly have, if not the best player, close to the best player in any given playoff series. They're a matchup nightmare for a lot of teams because of Luka, and then especially adding in Lively and all of that last year. I kind of think that they're not going to give a shit about the regular season. I think they'll want to get one of the top 5 seeds. I think they'll probably end up somewhere in that range. This is a fine line to me. 49 is about around the range I would say that they will finish at. But I could see for how many times have they done this where they start off slow? There are all these questions. Are they going to make a move? Then they trade for Kyrie 2 years ago. Last year they trade for PJ and they make Grant Williams the Grant Williams move in the offseason. They trade for Gafford. I just think that this team is going to be always aggressive and try to make upgrades. I don't think as I said many times this offseason, the Klay, Kyrie, Luka, thing offensively is going to be dynamite. It's going to be great. Luka with even better spacing is going to be very hard to guard. But defensively, I know that front court is like good defensively, especially Lively, and off the bench, I think Najee Marshall will be really great for them defensively. I just don't think that's a tenable 1-2-3 in this Western Conference to have like a top, like to even have like, I think they'll have like an average to below average defense. I think the starter, they might even at some point have to bench Clay because of it, just because it's so hard to have the wash version of Clay. It's not that Kyrie and Luka are bad on defense, but they just don't care in the regular season. Like they step their shit up during the playoffs, and Luka especially, gets injured throughout the course of a season. As you said before, he plays his way into shape, doesn't really give a fuck all that much about defense. I just think that this team is going to be a 46 or 47 win team. They'll be in like the middle to lower half of the Western Conference. And then they'll be the team that everyone's like, oh, you don't want to face this team in the playoffs. It's literally just Miami Heat reincarnated. Like they're just the Western version of the Miami Heat with a generational offensive player.
I think that's like I think you're probably onto something there, that it's like that's their comp. Is like probably a more dangerous playoff team than they are like a regular season team to me. I mean, the thing that's kind of throwing me is like how Mickey Mouse was like the Gafford PJ thing in like terms of regular season. Because my instinct is to go under on this one. I don't know. We're seeing 34-year-old Klay Thompson away from Steph Curry. Like I know he shot 38, 41, 38 the last 3 seasons from 3. So it's like he's and on great volume. Like I think it was like 10 a game. Those 3 seasons. But we've also never seen Klay Thompson not playing with the greatest shooter of all time. So that's like, I mean, I know Luka is also like a generational, like surefire Hall of Famer, but it's very different, and I'm interested to see, because Klay already wasn't that effective in recent years. What is he going to look like on a team that has like less spacing? There's probably more attention in other places with Kyrie and Luka in the backcourt, but I kind of wonder if some of that like heliocentrism and some of that is going to work. I don't feel super strongly on this one way or the other. I just think the West around here is going to be kind of a clusterfuck, and it's going to pull everyone towards 41 wins. That's not the Thunder. So I'm going to go under for that, like just general reason, but I don't, you can tell me either way.
So this team is better than previous Mavericks teams. So I'm not saying it's a 1-for-1 here.
Yeah.
But since Luka's made his leap to All-Star, 43 wins, 42 wins. But the 42-win season was a shortened season. That was only 72 games. So that would have been close to 50. I mean, it wouldn't have been at 50, but it would have been close. 52 wins, 38 wins, 50 wins. So they tend to go at least close to, if not definitely over. I just think that this team, it's going to take a little bit to get adjusted. Like they have a ton of new pieces. The West is really tough. I think that is going to be a weird fit with those 3. And I think it will take them some time to figure this thing out. And Luka will miss his 20 games. What do they look like during those games? They might be able to survive it a little bit just because historically they've always had, whether it's Kyrie or Brunson or whoever, can kind of step up when Luka is out. They tend to play pretty well, but I'm going to go under 2. I think they're going to win like 47 or 48 games. I said, my whole explanation was under. I don't know why you took that as over. I
thought you were thinking about it.
No.
I thought you were thinking about it.
I just explained they're not in the regular season. I think they'll be like a good, not great team. Okay. And I think that in the playoffs, no one's going to want to play them. They'll be like the 5 or the 6 seed, and they'll win 47 games or whatever it is. And they'll probably be, that team that is teams are dodging as we get closer to the playoffs, as they try to do like matchup hunting shit.
There's going to be the Thunder 1 seed, Mavericks 5 seed, second round rematch is going to be cinema this year. Yeah, that's coming. So
okay. Bill and Russillo, what do they say here?
You said I'm sticking with what I said. Simmons under, Russillo over.
Yeah, I agree with that. Especially because Bill operates a lot like you in that his opinions are informed by how teams look against the Celtics.
Yes.
And they look bad against the Celtics, even though They got to the NBA Finals and they look great. Although I will say Bill does love Luka. Like, I know that he'll probably give him shit for, as we said earlier, but he'll definitely be like, I want that guy on my team when it's, April or May or whatever.
They're also, the other thing I can almost guarantee in this section is quiet year for Kyrie last year. Do we think that happens again?
I kind of like Kyrie now.
Yeah,
now that he's not a threat to the Celtics and he lost to us again.
I think he's going to go the opposite way. I think he's going to fade. That's going to be a reason for him fading, is that he doesn't trust Kyrie to be non-disgruntled for more than one season in a row.
Are Clay's in there now? Lively's the up-and-coming guy. Are we going to get some Kyrie to the Lakers buzz sometime in December or January? Are we going to hear LeBron's got his eyes on Kyrie and he's trying to recruit him again?
You know what, though? That is not the worst thing in the world. You want to talk about getting out ahead of a trade early. It might not be a bad idea to think about trading Kyrie right now. I know they just made the finals and everything, but
I wouldn't be opposed to it if I'm the Mavericks, if I'm trying to retweak long-term around Luka.
That's what I'm saying.
Kyrie is like 34 now. Like,
now is the time. He's coming off an excellent season. You guys made the finals. Like, there wasn't any let's say Twitter catastrophes going on or anything like that. Like, I think people would trade for him, and I think, like, for example, the Lakers are desperate enough to like do it, and I think you could increase your long-term viability, and like, they're in a way different place as a team than they were when they made that trade. Like,
they got younger.
Right.
They got PJ, who's pretty young. They got Lively, who's fucking about as young as you can get.
Yeah, Gafford's not super old either, right?
They're like way better off long term. Yeah, I mean, now look, would it probably look something like that Karl Anthony Towns trade that just happened? Yeah,
Gafford's 25, by the way.
I know Gafford's not that old, but like, he's sneaky young.
26 tomorrow. As of recording, he's 25. He will be 26 by the time people listen to this.
So like, it's not the worst idea to look a little bit more long term, but I would imagine the Clay signing kind of indicates they're going in the other direction, and they're trying to win this upcoming season.
Well, yes, but that's like, you don't have to give up assets. Like, if you can just sign a guy or sign and trade a guy, what did they give up? They gave up, like, it was just Tim Hardaway Jr.
Yeah. They didn't really do it. No. And the Quentin Grimes thing, if Quentin Grimes works out, I actually kind of like Quentin Grimes potentially having a bounce back season with them.
Yeah.
If the Quentin Grimes thing works out, he's also like 24.
That's what I'm saying. They kind of like,
Najee Marshall's also like 25, 26. Like,
they're
they kind of sneakily made themselves a lot younger around Luka the last year and a half.
And they'll probably still be like pretty good. Like, now Kyrie is kind of the old guy. Like, and you can kind of reset. Like, they were in dire fucking straits like 2 years ago when they made that. When they made that Kyrie trade. Like, I kept making jokes about Luka Doncic being on the Knicks in like 2 years because I just didn't see like any path forward. They let Brunson walk, yada yada, and they've kind of, credit to Nico, man. Like, they have really, like, steadied the ship, and they don't know that many more draft picks or anything like that either. You know what I'm saying? They could like recoup, so they could make a move, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, that was something I could like keep an eye on. Like, if somebody is desperate and like wants Kyrie, like, why not?
They also have the Maxi Kleber contract. I think they could use to potentially upgrade as well if they want to make moves like that. But yeah, for right now, I'm going to go under. But Nico never sleeps. He'll definitely be aggressive. Always. Yeah. He literally, every transaction cycle, he makes a fucking move. At least one, if not two. All right, let's move on to the Denver Nuggets. 50.5. Oh, shit. You wanted to guess them. God damn it.
I did. That's all right. 50. Would I have gotten that? I probably would have guessed like 51.5, I think. So, yeah.
I was kind of surprised how low it was. They won. Look, I know they lost KCP. I get it. For the regular season, I feel like that's not like the worst thing in the world. I feel like they'll be able to survive that somewhat in the regular season. They won 57 games last year.
Yeah.
They won 57 games, and like, Jokic never gets hurt. And honestly, they rested Jokic more than they usually do last year, coming off the title. They won a ton of games 2 years ago as well.
53.
They won 53 2 years ago. And the years before that, the 2 years before that, they won under 50, but they also didn't have Jamal Murray for those years.
Yeah.
And Jamal Murray sucked in the playoffs. I know he sucked for Team Canada. People are worried about that. But in the regular season, he was really good last year. The last 2 regular seasons, he's been pretty good. And last year was his best regular season by far.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out. They were over 50 win pace the bubble year, because it was shortened. It was 47 wins, but that's
pretty much any year they've been healthy.
Yeah.
With Jokic and Murray, they hit over 50 wins.
And again, yes, they lost KCP, but they still have Aaron Gordon. Michael Porter Jr. hasn't fallen off a cliff yet. I mean, I think the biggest negative piece of evidence
26.
For this yeah.
I know he seems a lot older because of his, voting habits, but
I just mean his back. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I think his back's good. He had that second surgery and that seemingly corrected his back issues.
If that's the thing, then they've, he's again, he's not a perfect player. He's not a great player. That's a lot of money to pay a guy of that caliber, but he's a good player. It's kind of all of a sudden the question marks are more around Jamal Murray, coming off of a disastrous Olympics where he looked terrible. The RIP to the Jamal Murray is a playoffs merchant joke, which tragically died last playoffs when he probably had his worst playoffs to date, right?
Yeah. He also, my whole thing, and I was being driven insane because everyone was telling me I was wrong for saying it's not a thing.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that drove me insane about it was the fact that he was not good in the Lakers series. He just hit 2 game-winning shots. So everyone was like, oh, he was great. And I was like, no, he's actually kind of shit in that series. And then he was really bad against the Timberwolves. And then he struggled, obviously, with Team Canada. I don't know. I think Jamal Murray will be fine in the regular season.
Yeah.
But I don't think that playoff Jamal is a real thing. I've never thought it was a real thing. I think that he is a streaky player, and when his shot is on, he looks amazing. There has never been a player in NBA history who's a top 40 player and becomes a top 12 player in the playoffs. It's just not a thing. It's not, and there never will be. There are players that get better, but it was never sustainable.
No, it was always a small sample size because he played in literally 2 playoffs.
The bubble.
Yeah.
The bubble. And then the first playoffs, he was young, yes, but he wasn't that great. And then this past, the championship year, which he was great in both of those, not undeniably, but it's not something that you could rely on every single year. In the regular season, though, I think they're going to be fine. I kind of think this is an over, and I might lock it.
I am thinking about that as well. I'm definitely joining you on the over. I don't know about the lock yet. I'm gonna
hold on that.
I'm gonna see where we shake out when we're looking at these other ones. I think Russillo and Bill are joining us, by the way. I think we all agree that this is an over. Yeah.
Okay, this guy's the best player since peak LeBron. They lost, but they were coming off the title last year. They were exhausted by the end. What am I missing here? Why is this line so low? They're going to do what we did.
Yeah. Russillo, look. That's not the game 7 that you want, right? But come on. These guys didn't get fucking swept. He's going to say something like that, and be correct. You know what I'm saying?
By the way, everyone thought during that series that Minnesota could win the title.
Yeah. Why did we all change about that? We were having conversation. It's hard for me to keep up with this. What? Wait, weren't we just having conversations about how this was a dynasty a year and a half ago? You gotta pick a side.
Russillo is the last one to jump off of the Titanic as it sinks.
Yeah,
he's been doing this with the Bucks ever since they won the title. Where it's oh no, they're obviously going to win. And look, Giannis has been injured. Sure, Middleton's been injured, but at the same time, he does the same thing every year where he's just love the Bucks and they're going to win the East. It's even last year when Boston was obviously the best team, it took him until the end of the season to admit that it was probably going to be the Celtics.
He was queuing up a look at how dumb the computers are because the computers loved Boston.
Yeah,
the year before, last year. When he was they see that this is a 60-win team, you know what I'm saying? And it was
his favorite thing to do is talk about the 538 numbers from 2022.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. Good point by Bird in the comments though that like Westbrook is on this team. So,
Westbrook on this team.
Yes.
Because Bill goes, he saw so much on Westbrook.
Yeah.
He's literally like, I just want that guy on my team, Russillo. Like he does. He'll do like that guy gives a shit. Maybe with Jokic, he'll be Jokic. This will be the ultimate test for Jokic. Can I make Russell Westbrook, 35-year-old Russell Westbrook, a winning player again? Because I loved him when he was young, Russillo.
Yeah. Like Russillo is gonna hate the Westbrook signing. I think Bill will talk himself into and out of it throughout the season, depending on like game by game. I think they both go over. We're both over. Yeah, I think. Again, I think that
I don't like Denver as much in the playoffs as I used to.
Yes.
Like I think that just consistently losing guys and not replacing them. Maybe they do figure out a way, and maybe they just have Jokic and it doesn't matter. But I don't love them as much as a playoff team as I did before because it just feels like they're slowly losing the core pieces that help them win that championship.
Yeah.
And then the margin for error is just way, way thinner when you have like no depth like they do. Unless one of these young guys, I would bet on Julian Strawther being the guy I think that makes the leap this year to like being a legit impact rotation player, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is that like you can do your offense, defense, like amalgam of replacing KCP with like the Peyton Watson, Julian Strawther, Christian Brown, like minutes, but like, and that will work in the regular season. It will not work as well in the playoffs. You need guys to be good at multiple things in the playoffs. So,
and also everyone except for probably Jeff Green on that championship team had some two-way ability. Like they all had some viability on both ends of the court.
Murray, I would say, was the only other one.
Nah, I think Murray's a fine defender. I mean, I don't think he's like a lockdown defender, but I think he's like a fine defender. I don't think he's like bad by any means.
Yeah, I get. Well, and also, I guess it just kind of doesn't matter for a point guard. Really, you can kind of be bad as a point guard.
I think he's a fine defender. I don't think he's a bad defender. But also, I do just want to add that the thing that I'm worried about if I were to get to the playoffs with that team, Peyton Watson, can he be like a neutral offensive player? Even with Jokic, he struggled to show that so far.
Yeah.
And then the inverse for Julian Strawther.
Yes.
Can he stay on the court defensively because he's very frail? I always liked him as a prospect because I thought he was like, just like a dead-eyed shooter that would come in and work really well with Denver's offense. But defensively, he's going to get targeted a ton in the playoffs.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was trying to get at is like you can do this is our offense guy, this is our defense guy, but you need them both in one.
Yeah.
And that's what you lost in KCP. Like and that is going to catch up with you in the playoffs. But I think they can get to 51 wins. I wouldn't pick them to win many more than that, but I do think that they have a pretty decent chance to be like they and Minnesota have the best chance to form like a tier 2 behind the Thunder. And rise above the rest of the West. So I don't think it's crazy.
So the Warriors, do you want to guess this one? This one's kind of hard because they changed their team. Just keep in mind, they changed their team a lot. So I do just want to, they lost Clay, which is, in my opinion, addition by subtraction. I think it was done for him there.
Yeah.
They added Melton. So who else did they lose? Because they added Melton, Kyle Anderson, Buddy Hield. I guess they didn't draft anyone. So they lost Clay. And then I guess they just lost like Corey Joseph and like kind of inconsequential players that were at the end of the roster. Because they kept Looney. Oh, they lost Chris Paul.
Chris Paul, yes.
Yeah. Chris Paul, good call.
So who, was an impact guy on like their the back end of their thing. Another year of Pods, another year of Trace Jackson Davis.
You have to guess 43. Shit, I literally just gave it to you. How did we fuck that up?
I was gonna guess 44.5 because they were a public team. So
okay, so
that's about right to me.
Pods, Trace Jackson Davis, Kuminga in a contract year already.
Yeah.
Even though he's like him and Moody have barely played, they're both going into a contract year.
Yeah.
Draymond, Steph's still there, but it's basically a whole new cast of people around them. Looney and GP2, can you really count on GP2 because he's always hurt?
No.
Yeah.
I'll answer that. No.
Yes.
Um,
So I want to know what you think of this team, because I know what I think of this team.
I mean, they're not going to be good. Like,
I think they could be.
I don't know. I think the vibes are fucked up on this team. I think they kind of needed to get rid of Draymond to kind of like really turn the page. I don't think Draymond is going to be able to adapt to young guys, and it's just him and Steph. I'm not as worried about Steph. Steph's just going to be Steph, and he's not like sharply declining by any stretch of the imagination, but he is getting a little bit worse very slowly.
I think last year was the obvious first time that he showed any sort of signs of like real decline.
Yeah, and I think it's going to continue that way. I think he's still going to be like an all NBA level talent, so he's still very good, but like he's not like capital S Steph anymore. But I think that like you've got to if they're going to be good, they need to lean into playing the young guys, and I don't trust Steve Kerr to do that. I think Steve Kerr, like Draymond, is kind of prisoner trapped in like 2016 and doing some of this other stuff. And I think you need to be a little bit more imaginative with this roster, because I think that they've actually given him our beautiful nepotism front office has actually given them a rather functional team, but I don't trust it to
what
be
young
cohesive.
guys though, because Pods is going to play a ton. Trey Jackson-Davis is going to play.
Yeah, Kuminga. I think you have to play Kuminga.
Kuminga will play. I don't know if he like impacts winning for this team necessarily. He could be better than last year. I know that he was kind of up and down, and despite like he's still an efficient athletic scorer that has some defensive ability, but also kind of doesn't really fit exactly what the Warriors want to do, which tends to be ton of ball movement, constantly moving, the things that they really thrive on. But I don't know, dude. Like in 400 minutes without Clay on the court, Steph, Pods, and Draymond were a plus 11 last year. Like there's still the bones of a good team here to me. They added good players. I don't know if Melton's going to play. That's the one thing is like if Melton's back is cooked, then that's a rotation player already gone for them. If he's healthy, I think he'll be a good fit for them. I think Kyle Anderson's going to be a great fit for them. Even though he has some offensive issues, this is the one team that can kind of solve some of those things. I'm going to be honest. I don't know if Moses Moody's even that good to really worry about him. Like, I think he's fine. I think he's like a nice fifth guy to have in lineups that will hit open shots and like be a good team defender, but like him not playing isn't like they're a small team, so like I don't know how you can really like even fit him into some lineups.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up.
They're a bigger team this year, but yeah,
I want to add a little bit of trivia here on the Warriors for this year. Okay, Quentin Post is 7 feet tall, but he is on a 2-way contract.
Yeah,
who is the tallest rostered player on this team?
Kyle Anderson is what, 6'8"?
Yeah, Kyle Anderson is 6'9", and it is a tie between Kyle Anderson, Kevon Looney, and Trey Jackson-Davis, who are all 6'9", and those are the tallest players on the roster. And none of those guys are jump out of the gym athletes. They're still going to be a fucking disaster rebounding the basketball. Like they're going to get some plus from like Podziemski and some of their guards and wings who are okay.
Guard rebounder, yeah.
I am concerned about like long-term viability. Like maybe they can sign, like it is pretty easy to get centers in there, but like this is still a team that like I think is functionally a more dangerous playoff team than built for the grind of the regular season. Like they're going to get destroyed by like the Lakers in February because like they just don't have big guys, and if you don't
they're definitely still small. They're a little bigger getting rid of Chris Paul, and Clay gave you no functional height anymore.
That's true.
He didn't add any sort of size, and adding in Kyle Anderson during those minutes will help. Melton's not big, but he's long. Buddy Hield is the guy I really don't see fitting with this team. I don't really know why they signed him, except for maybe they just thought they needed the shooting. Outside of him, but yeah, man, like, all right, this is a fairly significant sample size, so I'm going to say this.
Okay.
In 2,200 minutes last year, they were a negative 0.8 in the Klay Thompson minutes. When Klay Thompson sat in 1,700 minutes, they were a +7.
Yes, but like also part of that, this is the thing I always used to get made fun of because I would do this with Kelly Olynyk when he was the sixth man for the Celtics. Is like if you're a starter, like by definition, unless you're on like a good team, you're gonna have a worse plus minus than other people that come in on like off the bench. So I don't know. I don't put a lot of stock in that. I think I'm going under, to be honest. Like.
I was split on this one. I have them. I'm a little bit higher on the Warriors this year than consensus, I think. Mm-hmm. I think I have them as the 6th seed right now. So what did the win last year?
The 6th seed last year
was the Phoenix Suns won 49 games as the 6th seed.
I think there's going to be less winning at the top, though. I think the 6th seed is probably more.
Well, it's 40. It's a 6-win difference almost, 43.5. So I'm going over. I'm not locking it by any means, but I'm going. I think this team wins 45 games.
So
45 or 46 games.
For those of you who don't have the Patreon, Trill and I went 9 teams last time before we disagreed on something.
Right. And so we've disagreed on the Warriors already.
Yeah, we're getting it out of the way on the 3rd here. So you said that there was 44.5 is the line, by the way?
43.5.
43.5. Okay.
So I'm going over. What do you think Bill and Russillo do here? I think Bill, out of spite for Steve Kerr, is going to go under.
He might.
Who is Steve Kerr to think that he can bench Jason Tatum?
You couldn't get Steph more help.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you just let Klay walk out the door. Like Bill thinks Klay is still good. I'm pretty sure. So, I think that it's like, is Draymond going to force his way to the Lakers?
every star who's like fringe. Like could potentially be either a headache or has asked out in the past. Bill will be trying to get them to the Lakers on this podcast.
Let me ask you something, Mr. Where were the Warriors on the KAT trade? Where were the Warriors on the KAT trade? Like what? You just let that happen? Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle. Like you couldn't put Kuminga and I guess Podziemski in the trade and make that happen.
He'll definitely say that.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. KAT with Draymond, maybe not good for KAT in the locker room, but that's a real
on the
team.
Court. What a great
on
fit!
The court. That's a great fit on the court. He'll say something like that because he's always he always wants the Warriors to get
whoever the hot
star that just got traded for
right.
Pascal Siakam. He lost his mind about the Pascal Siakam thing.
Right.
Similar thing. So he'll probably say that.
If this was 4 years ago, they'd make that trade. They're not spending anymore.
Yeah.
He's going to be pissed about the fact that they're not spending and that they're going younger around Steph.
Yes.
And he's is Steph on this roster in February?
Yeah. I mean, you want to talk yeah. Well, you want to talk about teams with disaster potential. If Steph gets hurt, this could be like a 20-win team.
It could be bad if Steph gets hurt. That's true.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So
Steph usually does miss 15 to 20 games a year. It's not like he's a full Iron Man.
Yeah, and I guess just a lot of other teams at least have one other star.
Mm-hmm.
If Steph goes down, it is a dramatic drop.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, so
respect Podziemski, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, nobody loves Brandon Podcast more than me, but he's not there yet. I don't know Russillo. I don't know if he goes under. I think he goes under. Is my instinct.
I think they might both go under on this.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't really think that they are going to realize. I like Podziemski. Is he ready?
Yeah.
Is he ready to take over? Clay's gone. They want him to shoot 10 threes a game.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think of what Russillo's angle is going to be, because Russillo likes to look at numbers, but then also kind of twist them to what he's seeing in the game.
Yeah,
and I mean,
look, the numbers still tell you Steph and Draymond together. It's unbelievable. Literally what I just said.
Yeah,
plus 9 in their minutes.
I mean, and Clay's gone. That's something. But here's the other thing. When I was the day after my fiance broke up with me, I got punched in the face. That changes how you look at another man. And I think these young guys are going to be looking at Draymond Green like, hey, that was fucked up. like he's going to have some like reasoning like that.
He'll have some story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Also, I do just want to point out here, Bill could point out, was last year the year from hell for the Warriors?
That's like his new Bill
loves the year from hell.
Yeah, that's gonna say that's like his new like shtick for like the last like 29 months.
Yeah,
that is like one that he has leaned into like every that like we would have if Bill were still writing, we would have gotten a year from hell power rankings column by now,
100%.
where he like went through historical years from hell from teams to like rank them. Like if he was still about that grind like he was in the Grantland days, we definitely would have like gotten that column by now.
Because you could say Draymond gets suspended multiple times.
Yes.
Clay doesn't really know where he fits in this new version of the Warriors.
Yeah.
Chris Paul, he's just kind of there. He's over by the cooler like, hey, I'm here too, by the way.
Kuminga is leaking to the press that he says he wants to play, and it works. It worked, House. I've never seen that.
He was right, too. He should have
right. Yeah, I mean, you got to believe in yourself. Like, who else is going to if not you?
Some of these guys, you want them to kind of reel it in sometimes. You don't want them to go directly to the press. But then again, if they weren't that way, if they weren't built that way, they wouldn't be in the NBA in the first place, How can you get mad at a guy for leaking to the press when he, look, this guy was born in the Congo. He's, comes over at 12 years old, learns how to play basketball.
That's absolutely like
100%. He would.
I feel like
that's Russillo loves to say that when like Draymond punches a guy in the neck, he's like, "Well, look, the reason why Draymond is Draymond is because of things like this."
He loves alpha mentality, dude. He's all about like the idea of like, look, some guys can't turn it off, and that's what makes him great. Like, yeah, so true. Oh God.
So the Houston Rockets. Do you want to guess this one?
Ooh, I want to look at what they won last year. They won
surprisingly more games than you remember.
They were even. They were a 500 team last year.
Yeah. The West was just so good that they didn't even make the play-in as a 500 team.
Yeah. Boy,
they made that late push too.
Yeah. Yeah, and they were getting it together. They're a young up-and-coming team. They're figuring some of this stuff out. I'm going to guess...
They really didn't make any major moves. They just added Green Shepard, basically.
They didn't. Well, that is kind of a major, Like,
no, it is a major move, but, like, they just drafted a guy. Like, they didn't... Last year, it was Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks and Jeff Green, and
I'm going to say, I think this line is pretty high. I think this line is 45.5.
43.5.
Wow. Okay.
Same as the Warriors. I'm actually like...
I might lock this.
All right, hold on. Oh, lock it what?
Over.
You're going over lock?
I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
I'm thinking about it.
So here's my thing about the Rockets.
Okay.
I can see a large range of outcomes for this team.
Mm-hmm.
They did have a little bit of a crazy Mickey Mouse March last year.
Yes.
That I don't want to over-index too much. Okay. Şengün was out for a chunk of that. Jalen Green played like a top 10 player, which I do not think is sustainable. I think it's safe to say, based on the larger sample of Jalen Green's career, he's not a top 10 player in the NBA.
Yeah.
Having said this, I think there's a world where they are... Last year was their... There's a world. I'm not saying it's likely because the West is probably just too good.
Yeah.
But last year could have been their Warriors. I'm sorry, their Grizzlies frisky play-in team makes the playoffs, loses to Utah, and then the next year they just make a huge leap.
Yeah.
And they jumped all the way to the 2 seed. I don't think they're going to jump all the way to the 2 seed.
How many games did Tari play last year?
Not many.
Yeah.
Tari missed a ton of time. Tari missed almost the whole season. Also, he's got a weird foot injury. I don't know what's going on with him. Şengün missed the end of the year. They did have relatively good health, though. Like, I don't think that most of their outside of Şengün and Tari, I think that most of their guys played a good amount of minutes last year. Fred VanVleet didn't miss a ton of time. I'm split. because I could see Şengün making a leap similar to the way that, Ja did a few years ago. All of these young guys taking a step forward to like becoming really good. And then you just have like 10 playable, athletic, skilled guys that will just run up and down every single night like that Grizzlies team did and just steal a ton of wins. And I'm the most split on this team of any team in the NBA.
They had one guy with perfect attendance last year in games. Do you want to guess who that was?
Jalen Green.
It was Jalen Green.
Yeah.
Played all 82.
I don't remember him missing any time. Yeah.
Yeah. Iron Man. Pretty good health outside of that. Jabari Smith, 76. Fred VanVleet,
Amen
73.
didn't play at the beginning of the year, but ended up playing like 60 games.
Yeah, 62 for Amen. Şengün, 63. It was really just Cam Whitmore only played 47, and I think a lot of those were CD at the beginning of the year. And then Tari only played 22. So.
They're a weird team because they're super athletic. They're super young. They have a lot of talent. Reed will be a great fit for what they need.
Yeah.
But of their top guys, the only guys that are really shooters are Fred VanVleet and Jabari. And Jabari is a worse shooter than you think. Jabari shoots like 36% on good volume, and maybe he takes another step. I mean, he has really good touch. Like, the odds of him becoming a good shooter are pretty good. But otherwise, like, Cam Whitmore's an up-and-down shooter. He's had moments where he's like a really good shooter. Amen is not a shooter at all. Şengün is not a shooter at all.
I'm going to say something.
Jalen's not a very good shooter outside of random hot stretches. Say something.
Don't laugh at me. Low volume, but like Aaron Holiday is like not the worst 3-point shooter in the world.
All right, let's move on.
This is like 40%, 30%.
By the way, what is up with you and Bill and loving Aaron Holiday?
I'm just saying, I don't think he's good.
Yeah, he was pretty good for them last year. But I listened to a 2021 post-draft podcast the other day with Bill, and they were talking about the draft night trade they made, and he was hyping up Isaiah Jackson to the Wizards, and they were like, they actually traded Isaiah Jackson to the Pacers for Aaron Holiday. And he was like, oh, I like it even better. I love Aaron Holiday. And then like a year later, he was on another team.
I don't have strong opinions about Aaron Holiday, but like Aaron Holiday is like a functional rotation player in the regular season. Yeah, like
he's also like 5'11". Like they're him, Reed. Sure. I think he's the one that gets bumped for Reed is my thing.
Yes, probably.
I think he gets bumped for Reed. I think FVV is a starter. I think Ahmed gets some on-ball opportunities. Jalen gets a ton of on-ball opportunities. Şengün gets a ton of on-ball opportunities. Yeah. They don't need a traditional point guard, really.
He's a little bit washed, but they also do have Steven Adams on the team now.
I forgot Steven Adams is on this team.
He can screen, and, like, he could do some things to kind of, like, turn them into a...
This is the weirdest team in the NBA.
It is. It is.
High variance outcomes here.
I'm taking a glass half full thing. I really believe in the Thompson twins, and just Asar's situation is like fucking abysmal. I know Amen, there's like not a lot there, but like the Amen Şengün thing was just so good last year. I think that they're probably going to finally pull the plug on Jalen Green. Like, I think they're going to have no choice. I think Cam Whitmore is the clear sixth man for like this team, and the guy who kind of have like take over bench units. I think Reed is going to be
dribble. I think Reed will play on ball more than Whitmore. Yeah. I think Whitmore's going to be. I think Whitmore's good. I just think Amen. I think they have plenty of ball handlers. They will be Amen, Şengün, Reed.
I just mean he's going to be the scorer. Like Jalen Green, he's going to be the scorer, like in the bench unit.
He'll be good off ball.
Yeah. I think Reed is a Rookie of the Year candidate. Pretty clearly, I think he's going to be incredible. I think he's going to be so good. And he's honestly Reed. Believing in Reed is another big reason why I just really like this team. I'm going over. I will hold back on locking it, but I'm considering it.
I want to be in on this team. Like, I kind of want to be like, this is a 46-win team. In this Western Conference, I think the West is going to be even better. I think it's going to be one of those things where, like, development is not linear with this team.
Yes.
Where, like, I think they'll be in the play-in. I think they'll be really good. I'm going under, but I think that we're a year away from this team clearly being one of the 5 best teams in the West. I think a year from now, I'll have a different tune about them. I think that they'll be, like... I think they'll be a lock to make the playoffs a year from now.
they've got a lot of good players.
They can make consolidation trades too, because by the way, they have Jock Landale's contract, Jeff Green's contract. They're not in the aprons. So they can throw in Tari if they like one of the young guys, Jalen, Tari, Cam, whoever doesn't fit, they can upgrade that to like a meaningful win now player. I just think they're going to do that
plenty of picks.
I think they're going to do a year from now.
Sure. They have plenty of picks, but like I'm saying they have so many picks and so few roster spots that they might even make like a tiny buy move. You know what I'm saying? They might make like the equivalent of like, I don't know, like a
Cam
David
Johnson.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that to like just shore things up for
just
like
add another wing who can shoot.
Yeah.
There will be someone that I think that you're right that they will make like a push in the chips, just not all the chips kind of move.
Yeah, they'll make like a tiny like 2 seconds or like a bad first move, I think, at the deadline.
Dorian Finney-Smith, Marcus Smart, one of the guys. No, I'm not kidding. Like I really do think that like one of these like hard-nosed defenders that Eam would love. Ime.
He would. Marcus Smart, putting Marcus Smart on that team. Marcus Smart, Tari, Jabari, like around Reed.
Well, the only problem is that the salary to match that, unless they do like the cobbled up salary, it would probably have to be Dylan Brooks, and Memphis definitely doesn't want Dylan Brooks back.
Dylan Brooks can be easy. You can turn that into a 3-way trade pretty easily, though. I think there's enough teams that need wing play that I think Dylan Brooks actually, even on that contract, would still have some value. So, what's your decision? Are you going under? I'm
going under, slight under.
Okay.
I think they win like 4. I think they win in the same range as last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we're talking about them very differently a year from now. Just Bill and Russillo real quick here. Bill kind of nailed it with his OKC hype last year, where he was like, he basically called them making the full leap to like 1 seed like they did last year. Yeah. He compared them to the early Warriors. He compared them to these teams, the young old Thunder team with KD and Harden and Russ. He made these comparisons before the season. I think he's going to be really in on this. I love Şengün. Love Şengün. Reed Shepherd, I think he's a great fit for what they want to do. Udoka's going to have these guys working really hard. They're super athletic. They're super young. They're talented. Steven Adams is a great locker room guy. He's someone that's going to be a key piece for them as just a veteran presence on the court to teach these guys. I love this team, House. I think he's going to be very in on the Rockets.
I think so, too.
I actually think this is the rare Bill over Russillo under.
I was just going to say, I think Russillo actually might be under on this.
Yeah.
Just like go through the teams. All right, you tell me Houston's good. So
who's their best player? Who's their best player? Okay. Look, I like Şengün. Fred VanVleet, he's a really good player. Are they better than Luka? Are they better than Jokic? Are they better than Shea? Like, look at Anthony Edwards is the 4th best number 1 guy in the Western Conference. And we love Ant, but like that's who we're comparing him to.
Like, you've got to leap Zion. You've got to leap like people like to make fun of the Kings, but like Sabonis and Fox, those are like real guys. Like, he's
I do think that is an important thing. Like I said, I think that they will win Memphis Grizzlies style.
Yes.
If they do win. And that was like a team effort a few years ago when they won.
I mean, that is another thing that the Grizzlies are quote unquote back, and that's kind of throwing a grenade in all these standings because they won 20 games last year? 26?
Yeah, I mean they were dog shit.
27.
And they had all those injuries, and now they're seemingly back. We'll talk about them in a little bit, but like that definitely is the wrench thrown in here. Right?
They're my team I don't know what to do with.
Okay, that's how I feel about the Rockets. We'll get to the Grizzlies in a little bit.
I'll have to talk it through once we get.
They're actually kind of a weird team too, but All right, so the Los Angeles Clippers. Do you want to guess this one?
I think they're weirdly kind of a public team. I think it's 2 wins higher than it should be. I'm going to say 39.5.
Ooh, 1 off. 38.5.
38. Okay.
So I think that they're taking the Kawhi injury seriously. They lost Paul George, who, say what you will about Paul George's playoff performance in the regular season, they were much better when he was on the court, no matter what the combination was, whether it was Harden and Paul George, no Kawhi and Paul George, no Harden, all 3 of them together. Every lineup was better when Paul George played last year. They lose him. They add in Nick Batum, Derek Jones Jr., not Dante Exum, Chris Dunn. They go like more like hard-nosed defensive role players. I mean, I think this team is gonna.
I'll say it. They stink. I'm sorry.
I think they stink. Stink, and I also think that I've been saying it since the Paul George move happened. I think Harden will easily force his way out if he's unhappy. The only thing is that Harden might be happy.
Yeah.
Because he's getting 100 pick and rolls every game. Because Kawhi out, like if Kawhi misses 50 games this year, or if he misses 30 games this year, this team is just going to be Harden, semi-wash Harden, and a bunch of misfit toys.
Mo Bamba is on this roster.
Mo Bamba. Kevin Porter Jr. is on this roster.
Yeah, so is Josh Primo, which is there's yeah.
You sure?
According to Basketball Reference, but maybe I'm wrong.
Gross.
Bones Highland is on this roster.
I forgot Bones Highland was still around.
Like,
God, they have like 15 guys you've heard of. It's not like they have anyone who isn't. They're not good.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
They're like the definition of this new normal of like NBA teams where you go through and you're like, oh, these guys have played in the NBA before. And like in past seasons, if there was like more than 10 of those guys, it would be like, oh, so they'll probably be like a bad but not putrid team, you know? Not anymore. Like, I think I might lock this under. In fact, I think I'm going to. I'm going to lock this under. I think the Clippers are going to be low-key a disaster because I don't think Kawhi Leonard is going to play. They don't have their own picks. I don't think Kawhi Leonard is going to play. They have no way to improve this roster. And I think Harden's starting to get too old to even do like his Harden drag job that he would need to do. And I think the West is too good. Somebody's got to lose in the West. And I think they're going to be like really bad. Like I think like 30 wins is like possible for this.
Okay.
Team.
So their second best player is probably when Kawhi is out is probably Zubac. And Zubac is solid. If he's your second best player in this Western Conference and your best player is like a compromised version of James Harden. I love Batum. I think that Batum's still a really good regular season player, great connective piece. Derek Jones Jr. is a good role player, but like they're role players and they don't have the guys that are going to be able to scale up and win games without Kawhi and especially with Paul George now gone. Like, I just want to, like, just to give you some perspective, in last year, in the minutes where it was just Harden, no Paul George and Kawhi, they actually lost those minutes by 4.5. So they were negative 4.5 in 338 minutes. The only thing I will say is that the offense was still great. They were a 124 offensive rating during those minutes, which is fucking incredible. They were a 128 defensive rating, almost a 129 defensive rating. Maybe some of the implementations of adding in defensive guys like Chris Dunn and Derek Jones can help with that. But yeah, I'm going to go under here too. I think they win. Like, I'm a little bit higher on them just because I still think that Harden can win you some regular season games that you don't expect to win. Even this version of Harden is still like one of the best passers and playmakers in the NBA. I'm going to say they win like 35 games, 36 games, but I'm going under.
Yeah.
It's a really low line. Like it's an appropriately low line, I would say, with Kawhi's health being a question mark.
Paul George was really fucking important to that team. Like, even if you could tell me Kawhi Leonard plays 62 games, and I would still probably pick the under, to be honest. Like,
yeah, if Paul George is your third best player, as the Sixers are going to learn this year, your team's really good.
Yeah,
and he was their third best player last year.
He was like really important. I also just think it's like really important to have a guy who's like able to do. Paul George is like a rare type of player too. Like he's a giant wing who is a good shooter, can defend, doesn't need the ball.
Yeah,
that's there's like 5 of those guys in the league. Like,
and he can still run pick and roll occasionally too. It's not like you want him to run a ton, but like he has the ability to create a little bit. It's not like he's a complete he's not OG Anunoby.
Right. Like he can scale up. Like, you know, like he did. I mean, he was an MVP candidate like when he was younger. So I don't know. I'm really out on this. I think Bill and Russillo also.
I think everyone's under on this. I think that the sense that I get is that everyone is gonna, and also like if we get to halfway through this season and they're underperforming, I think everyone on this roster becomes available.
Yeah.
Like I think that they're gonna be like it's over. Like the Paul George thing was kind of the beginning of that, but like. Terrence Mann just signed an extension, but he could still be traded. Batum will certainly be wanted by a lot of teams. Derek Jones Jr., Zubac. All of these guys could become available at some point this season if things go south, and I expect them to go pretty south.
Yeah, they're going to be doing like a Sean Marks. This is the new Nets. This is the new Nets. They're going to have to like do some of that stuff. The big guys probably don't get moved. I don't think Harden gets moved. I don't think anybody's trading anything of value that they would need to move him, even
unless the Lakers take him. Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot about
across town. And as we said I do just want to point out, I think that Bill will be all over them for letting Paul George go.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Why did they let Paul George go? It will be now Kawhi's out. Like.
This is like one of the greatest scams of all time. The second they finished that building, it was like, all right, we're done. No more. Like it's a great building. I've been out there. I'm a season ticket holder. This might be my last year.
I was gonna say,
yeah.
I don't know if I could watch James Harden ball 80 games a year. I don't know if I could do it, Russillo. I'm not built for it anymore. I think I've given up on the Clippers officially.
Man, shout out to Zubac for getting the bag, though.
Yeah, Zubac got a bag. He's still a good player. But yeah, I don't think they're nearly good enough in this Western Conference, and it could be very bad. But yeah, Lakers.
Okay, the ultimate public team. Their line is always like 5 wins higher than it should be.
I switched mine last year, and I think it ended up winning me because I was over on them, and then I went under last second, and I won on that.
Yes, that is how you won. Yeah, I was like making fun of you for going.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I need a mulligan on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this is not what I think. This is what I think the line is. I think the line is 41.5.
It's 42.5.
Wow, even higher than I thought. Like I was giving 5 wins.
But here's what surprises me. I know that Anthony Davis had a really healthy year last year.
Yeah.
They won 47 games last year.
Yeah, they did great. They had a great season.
There was 48.5, I think, last year, and that's why we were like, fade this.
Yeah.
But
also had a 0.6 differential.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they were a great team. What I'm saying is they won 47 games.
Yeah. True.
With very good health for Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
And they fired their coach because they lost to the Nuggets, who they can never beat, but the coach wasn't going to make a difference.
Yes.
So JJ Redick is basically the only thing they changed. They drafted Dalton Knecht and they hired JJ Redick. And they've basically run the team back otherwise.
I don't. I'm really thinking about locking this under. This is really like.
How many games did Anthony Davis play last year? Because I'm looking it up right now. Because that is. Okay, I just want to. All right, Anthony Davis played 76 games last year.
Oh my god,
that's the most he's ever played, right?
It's got to be by like 10.
No, he had 2 seasons where he played 75 in New Orleans.
Okay,
76. The year before 56. The year before that 40. The year before that 36. And I think Dalton Knecht will be a fine bench shooter for them. He ain't making a difference. Like he's not. He's just whatever. JJ Redick can do whatever he wants. This team was lucky to win 47 games. They were probably more like this. Their point differential is more like a 500 team.
Yeah.
And Anthony Davis is going to miss 15 to 20 more games than he did last year. Okay. And their team without Anthony Davis is wet dog shit. Like
Yeah.
LeBron doesn't care as much in the regular season anymore. All he has is the brownie piece. The brownie piece. JJ Redick, this is Bill's new favorite thing to do. Is there any job in the league that you would want less than the Lakers?
It really is. It is kind of baffling that he took that job.
Yeah.
Because this is probably the worst job in sport. You're coaching LeBron James.
Yeah.
There's insane expectations when the roster is dog shit. There's no cavalry on the way. It's probably gonna be hard to implement what you want to do because these are all veterans and accomplished guys. You know what I'm saying? You don't have a lot of talent. I don't know. I think this is a disaster and a powder keg, and I think this is the other really bad West team. So
LeBron played 71 games last year. They got incredible health luck considering those two's recent health history. I don't even think it was a contract year for AD too. I think he got extended before the year. So
yeah. I'm out. Even all things better, the West is better.
The West is better.
It's they've got to win 43 games. No
the only player that can potentially get better is Austin Reeves.
Yes.
And Austin Reeves is already really good. I don't really think that him making an extra step is going to be the difference for them. I'm definitely going under here too.
Yeah, they stink. I think Bill and Russillo join us.
I think they'll be fringe lower half of the play-in. Maybe out.
I think Bill and Russillo's take is look, I respect it. I respect JJ. Love JJ. Yeah. I think LeBron is one of the greatest players of all time. I don't know. They think they can flip the switch. I think the switch is broken. I think the electrician isn't in here. I don't think they got this in them anymore. This is not the 2016 Cavs anymore.
Who's on this roster in February?
Yeah.
It's always D'Angelo Russell's name will be in rumors. Rui Hachimura's name will be in rumors. Anyone who's a young guy on this team, their name will be in rumors. How do you handle that psychologically? He loves to talk about that.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing is the other case you could make for a Lakers over is that they will make a trade in season to improve their roster and go get.
I think Pelinka's done. I don't think he's doing it. I think he's going to put his foot down and be no.
Yeah, I think he knows it's over.
They went too far out first. They could trade, but it would be a disaster to trade those picks.
I don't think JJ Redick was a LeBron James hire. So, yeah, I think that JJ was
they
the guy
famously hate each other. They had a podcast together.
I know
during the season.
I know, but I don't think that I think if they had thrown the bag at Budenholzer or something like that, it probably would have been more of a signal to LeBron or something. So I don't know.
Maybe. All right. So let's move on to the next team. Who is in alphabetical order after them? Is it Minnesota?
I believe Minnesota. No, the Grizzlies. Memphis.
Oh, the Grizzlies. The Memphis Grizzlies. Yeah. All right. Sorry, I dropped my phone that has the notes on it. All right. You want to guess the Memphis Grizzlies here?
I think this is going to be kind of high for what it should be. I'm going to say it's 46.5.
47.5. Oof. You're coming close. You can't.
Yeah.
You nailed a few on the Eastern one. You're coming within one or two.
Yeah, I've been almost exclusively one or two off this pod.
All right, the Grizzlies. I don't know what to do with this team either because they seemingly are cursed when it comes to injuries recently. Not that I thought that Gigi Jackson would have really helped them win this year. I think he's more of a long-term guy.
Yeah.
But Gigi's out. They had all these injuries last year. They're a deep team. I don't understand how the starters are going to work. I tweeted this earlier. Here are their starters. Ja Morant, Marcus Smart, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., Zach Edey. The only above-average three-point shooter out of that whole group
Zach Edey.
Is our guy Zach Edey. Is Desmond Bane.
Yeah.
Ja Morant and Marcus Smart is probably the worst shooting backcourt in the NBA from three.
Almost definitely. Yeah.
And then Jaren Jackson Jr. has seemingly become the most overrated shooter in the entire NBA because he had one season where he shot really well. And since then has actually kind of shot poorly on good volume, but he's not a 5. We've talked about the 5 thing. Like when you play him at the 5, your rebounding is going to suffer. So they draft Edey. We love the Edey pick.
Yeah.
But if you're counting on him to be a shooter, here are his shooting stats the last 3 years. 28%, 31.9%, 35.5%, 32% last year on 5.5 attempts, 4.5 attempts, 5.1, 5.5. It's not crazy volume. It's not good for a power forward. And like they have a lot of skill. The defense is going to be really good. I love the Ja and Edey pick and roll. I think the spacing is going to be weird with that starting lineup. I think that you've talked about the fact that you probably think that Smart is going to have to move to the bench at a certain point just to add some more shooting to that starting lineup.
Yeah.
And I like their depth. I think they're going to win a lot of regular season games just because they have a deep team. And I think Edey's going to be one of the few instant impact rookies where like he's just good right away. Yeah. And it won't take a ton of time to adjust. I love his fit with Jaren Jackson Jr. and with Ja. But I'm a little bit skeptical on this team only because of what I said with like the mismatch in the starting lineup and how long does it take for them to pull that plug if it doesn't work?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you on all of that. The thing is that like when's Vince Williams supposed to be back? Like
he's another guy that got injured. He's going to be back before the season, I think, but around the start of the season.
Okay.
I think it was like 4 weeks as of like last week.
They do have like John Conchar. They have Santi Aldama. They have like,
but
their bench is
Santi can shoot.
Yeah.
John Conchar is not a shooter. He can't shoot at all. He's a good defender, not a good shooter. Vince Williams is like a shaky shooter too. Like he had a good shooting year last year, shot 37%, but he only took 4 shots a game. He'll get more because he'll play with Ja probably.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the context last year was crazy. He was like top of the scouting report for like most of those games.
Yeah,
last year. So like I'm not like super worried about that.
He doesn't have history of being like a knockdown shooter. This team is super talented, young, athletic, skilled. Very good basketball players.
Do we mention Jake?
Kennard's going to have to play a lot.
Not a good shooter.
That's the thing. Jake LaRavia is a white guy, and coming out of college, I was like, I didn't really know what he was going to be in the NBA. I wasn't huge, but like he's turned out to be like a really good defensive guy in the NBA, and the shooting hasn't translated at all. He wasn't a great college shooter, but he was like tall white guy, capable. Yeah. And I know the team's like high on him. Maybe he plays, but I don't know. It feels like they're going to take a little bit of time to like figure out who's playing and not. Like they do have like 12 guys. You didn't even mention Scottie Pippen Jr., who was like really good for them last year. Outside,
how about Brandon Clark, who we also didn't mention? Like
I don't even think he's going to play.
Yeah, like
or I guess maybe in backup center minutes.
Yeah. I like what Peter said. Like Corey Kispert, this is like a good Corey Kispert team. Like
they have Luke Kennard. I just think that Luke Kennard is gonna.
He's like a 0 on defense though. Like at
Corey
least
Kispert, one of the worst one of the worst defenders in the NBA.
No.
I've said this before. I don't know why Corey Kispert. I actually think we talked about this in the Discord the other day. I don't think they should trade Corey Kispert because I think every team needs, especially every young, when you're trying to develop Bub Carrington and Alex Sarr and these guys, they need spacing. Don't trade Corey Kispert because he's also, I don't think going to help a contender because I think his defense is he's just like a different version of Luke Kennard to me. Like, I think he's a better offensive player than Luke Kennard because all Luke Kennard does is just hit open shots, and Kispert can drive a little bit. He can pass a little bit. He's a decent finisher. But like defensively, I don't think he can hold up at all.
Corey, they don't love you like I love you. I hope you're hearing this. This is Billboard information. When the Wizards are in the playoffs in 2070, and you're the first 50-year-old.
Good. I'm not saying Corey Kispert's bad. I think he's a good player.
Yeah.
I just think that if you're a contending team, he will get played off the court defensively in the playoffs. Like he's just, if you're a wing who can't defend, I don't know how you can stay on the court in the playoffs.
He'll be fine.
Unless he's Duncan Robinson, and Duncan Robinson's actually a much better defender. But anyway,
I think Duncan Robinson's a good comp. I think he's like a Duncan Robinson level defender, which I think is good. I think he's like a fine defender.
But anyway, continue.
Anyway, all right, we'll talk soon. We'll check back in about this. Grizzlies. I don't know. This is the team that I have like the least to do. So like, I made the joke earlier in the year that like the Edey pick, I was gonna fade the Grizzlies so hard, but I love the Edey pick so much.
Mm-hmm.
I think he like genuinely might like single-handedly like swing their fortunes because like I think I don't know, it's so hard. Everything you just said about the shooting is right on. I saw you posting about like the Jaren Jackson stats today, and I was like, oh my god, like I didn't realize how bad that was. Like,
I feel like that goes under discussed. I feel like because he's a big who can shoot that we all just assume he's a stretch. He's actually like a below average career 3-point shooter and was boosted by those first 2 years in the NBA.
And also like anemic stats, rebounding stats, not to mention seemingly remember that you've also got to remember that the Grizzlies scorekeeper artificially inflates his steals and blocks. Do you remember that? The defensive player of the year, the Reddit thread? Like,
2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's all like alarming, you know, like, and I do think everyone's just assuming the Grizzlies are going to be back. Like, oh, this was a number 2 seed for 2 years. They were a number 2 seed in like the worst West in like 2 decades. Like when the Grizzlies were good, it was the worst the West has been in like.
They did win 57 games the 1 year though.
That West was bad.
I agree, but this is a much lower line than that is my point.
That is true.
And the West is much better now. The big question for me is how many games does Ja Morant play? And Bill's going to be, can we trust this guy? Is he going to be in the league soon? Like, I don't know. A lot of weird stuff going on there, Russillo. I don't trust it.
I don't know what to do with this one. 46, that's like a right in the right thing. I'm going to go slide under. I don't feel good about it.
After I talk so much shit on them, I think I'm going to go slide over.
Oh, that's so funny.
I Lucy with the football in you.
Yeah.
I decided to pivot back the other way. I think Bill's going to love this team, though.
Yes. No, he's going to be.
He loves Edey.
Yeah.
That guy's going to come in right away. He's tough. He gives a shit. I love that guy.
Guaranteed shitting on Marcus Smart. Like, is Marcus Smart done pretending he's one of the best players for the team? Because he single-handedly ruined the Celtics. Celtics would have had 7 titles right now if Marcus Smart didn't understood his role a little better. Is that going to happen again? Is he going to be looking off Ja in big moments? Like, and Russillo will ape him on that. So I don't know.
When the Grizzlies trade Marcus Smart for Cam Johnson at the deadline.
I can't wait.
He's getting traded for Cam Johnson, and then they'll have their wing who can shoot in this starting lineup.
Yeah. I honestly like that. That's a pretty good trade, honestly, for the good. Marcus Smart doesn't make a lot of sense on this Grizzlies roster. Like, totally dropping kayfabe. Like, why do you have Marcus Smart? It's like the one thing you don't need.
Yeah, I think that they'll probably end up trading him at some point. Whether it's this year or next offseason, I don't think he's there for the long term.
I think we should chain him to the Rockets like we just talked about, or one of these other teams.
Yeah, and the other thing about the Edey pick that is nice is like he's going to come in and fill that kind of Steven Adams role, but kind of like the Mavericks, it makes them younger again. Like this isn't the year that they have to make like winning. Like they made the smart move to kind of push up their window a little bit. And then that didn't really work because of all the injuries last year. And now, like, if Edey's awesome, they can be like, all right, all of our guys are still 25. Like, Edey's 22. Like, we don't have to, push in everything we have. We can slowly develop these guys and then make maybe one put us over the top trade a year from now or whatever it is. So yeah.
Russillo over under. What do we think for him?
I think they're both going to be in on this team.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, over. I think they go over. Although I do think the fact that Ja has barely played the last 2 years, they'll talk about that a ton. The guy that's going to really have a ball out year for this team is Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane still had pretty good analytics and numbers last year, despite being incredibly overtasked with that team. And I think that he's going to be like a fringe all-star level guy this year because they're going to need him to be because he's just going to be all of their shooting in the starting lineup. He's going to take like 9 threes a game, I bet. So, and he's one of the 5 best shooters in the NBA. So, all right.
Thanks.
Finally got to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Do you want to guess this one?
I'm going to guess it is after the trade.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to guess it's 53.5.
52.5.
Okay.
within 1.
Yeah.
It was actually, I think it was a little higher before this because they won a lot of games last year.
Yeah.
They were, for most of the season, they were fighting for that number 1 seed in the Western Conference. They ended up finishing the year with 56 wins.
Yeah.
So they expect slight regression. Obviously, we talked about it ad nauseum. If you want to hear that full episode, sign up for the Patreon where we talked about the Karl Anthony Towns, Dante DiVincenzo trade, not Julius Randle. Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo added, Karl Anthony Towns gone. I'm so glad we waited to record this episode. They added in Terrence Shannon Jr. and Rob Dillingham in the draft. They brought in Joe Ingles. Kyle Anderson's gone, but Kyle Anderson was kind of bad for them last year. I like his fit more with the Warriors than I do with this team. I really don't know what to do because I hate the Julius Randle fit so much. This team has a ton of talent, but I don't think they're going to be a disaster. But I think there's a chance they win 10 less games this year just because of this. Hear me out.
Okay.
Weird Randle Gobert fit. Is Randle even there for the long term? I don't know. Dante's going to be really good for them. Honestly, I would start Dante because I think we need to take the kid gloves off Anthony Edwards. I think you need to just be Dante's going to space for you. Yeah. He'll be a secondary creator. Conley is not going to be here to spoon feed you and Rudy Gobert anymore. It's time to learn how to run an offense. And the shooting from that front court, we just talked about the Grizzlies having the worst shooting backcourt in the NBA. I think this front court is the worst shooting front court in the NBA. Jaden McDaniels, Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert.
What if I could tell you that the starting lineup will be Naz Reid?
It's not happening. Everyone keeps saying this. It's never going to happen. He's not coming off the bench. He made All-NBA 2 years ago. This is not how these guys work. They wouldn't have made the trade if they thought that it's never happening. Naz Reid is coming off the bench. He's not going to. I'll bet you $100 right now.
I'm just saying, if I were Chris Finch, that is the obvious thing that I would look at.
They were really good in those minutes last year. Their lineup survived well without KAT. They need the shooting.
It makes a lot more sense. The fit makes a lot more sense if you're staggering Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards. That makes so much more sense. And you are you're bringing in Randle. You're having Naz Reid play center with Randle as Randle's coming off the bench. Maybe Ant gets the early break and you have Mike Conley in there to kind of facilitate things. And everyone stands around and watches Julius Randle do his Julius Randle thing for in the regular season for and that's a lot worse of a thing to do for that. Yeah.
Austin Rivers was trying to be nice to Julius Randle on the podcast because I think they played together at one point on the Knicks. But it was very obvious that he was
yeah.
He didn't I mean, Julius Randle, he hijacks your entire offense. If he's on your team, it's hard to make him fit as a piece. It's the thing we've always talked about. Very talented, made all NBA teams, probably the worst fit of any star on if you just plop him on any team in the NBA. It's just really hard to make him work. And even with the staggering, Ant played 35 minutes a game last year. There's 48 minutes in a basketball game. There's 13 minutes that you're going to play him without Ant. That you should do it. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I'm saying it's going to be a weird thing. Randle plays a lot of minutes too.
Yeah. Here's the other thing though. They can also trade Randle.
They should.
And they probably should. And I even a Brandon. I'm not a Brandon Ingram fan by any stretch of the imagination.
He makes more sense on this team.
He makes more sense on this team, and I think everybody would say yes to that.
I don't think New Orleans would, but I think the Timberwolves would.
I think New Orleans would.
Zion and Randle is just the worst fit imaginable.
I mean, sure, but you're out of time on the Brandon Ingram thing.
I think they'll just take it to the deadline.
And I think that this is going to be the best offer out there for Brandon Ingram at the deadline. Maybe. That's why. So that's what I'm saying. I think that this. I wouldn't be shocked if Randle wasn't on this team after the trade deadline. I still think they're going to be a lights out defensive team, even with Randle.
They'll still be really good defensive.
And I think that
he at least can rebound.
And that's what I'm saying. And I think that is a great equalizer when it comes to some of this stuff. The thing with Julius Randle is, he's going to guarantee you that you don't lose more than, that you're not under 36 wins, but he also probably hard caps you at like 46 wins. On the other end,
every
like
team, every
wins.
Julius Randle team, 38 to 48 wins is like the
thing.
Yeah.
I do think I've made my bones being too high on this Wolves team. I'm willing to go down with the ship again on this one. I'm going to take the over. I do not think it will be by much. I do think that this team, with their defensive personnel, I think it's going to be good enough. I do think they're going to be a worse offensive team. There's no question. They're going to be dog shit. But I think that they're going to be the best defense in the NBA, and I think that that's going to get them pretty far, even in this West. So, and I think that they make some sort of Randall move for some of these other things. And Dante DiVincenzo is not nothing.
No, Dante DiVincenzo is a very good regular season player.
Yeah.
They won 42 games 2 years ago when they were trying to figure it out on the fly.
Yeah.
I'm going under on this, but I don't think it's that much under. I think they still win like 50 games. Yeah. I still think that they're a really good team. I think that it's going to take a lot of adjustment. I think that, as I said, I would start Dante and just go, at least we have his spacing there. Like we have his, he knows how to play with Julius Randle. He played with him last year. Ant and him, great shooting back. It's not that Conley is a bad shooter. Conley's a very good shooter, just to be clear. I just think that if your team is going to me, this trade made it so that I wasn't going to pick them to win the title next year anyway.
Yeah.
But this trade basically made me think there's no chance they win the title next year. Like I think that there was like a slight chance that like Karl Anthony Towns figures out whatever issues he has deeper in the playoffs because he was really good earlier in the playoffs last year. I don't see it with Julius Randle. And even Dante DiVincenzo, like, kind of look at some of the on-offs and some of the playoff numbers. Like, he hasn't been great in the playoffs himself, and he's played there the last 2 years. And then I think this is more about the long-term Ant move. Like, this is more about, like, we got off the KAT contract, which I still think is a savvy move. I think you should try to get off the KAT contract because it was eventually going to sink you. Whether it was now or later, it was up to you. But
you got a pick back that could be bad, but as we talked about on the stream, it's not impossible that turns into a pretty good pick.
It could be like the 12th pick in the 2027 draft. Yes. You just gave up a pick to take a swing on Rob Dillingham. I think Terrence Shannon Jr. is going to play for them right away. I think they have the best bench in the NBA, maybe.
Yeah.
Naz Reid, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. It's one of Conley or Dante.
Yeah.
Like, Terrence Shannon Jr. will probably play next year. Probably best bench in the NBA, and that's going to get them a lot of wins. I just think the starters don't make quite enough sense at this point. And if this is about maximizing Anthony Edwards, let him cook. Let him take over the offense. He's going to have to sink or swim eventually, and you basically made it so that you have a lower chance at the title, in my opinion, next year. Let this be a developmental year for him, and maybe he proves me wrong and just keeps getting better and better and is best level in a championship team. They either trade Julius Randle or he figures it out, and they're a force in the playoffs again next year. So I do think that, like, KAT finally getting over the hump in the playoffs and then shitting himself in that Dallas series was like a big, like, yeah, this guy's probably never going to figure it out thing for them. Even though, like, it's funny to then turn around and trade him for Julius Randle, who's been much worse than KAT in the playoffs.
Well, because the Julius Randle thing is not long-term. Like, that
I don't think so. It's about flexibility. Like, it's about, like, being able to make other trades. And
it's about getting out. It's like, essentially, here's a rotation player. Here's a pick we're getting back for this KAT contract.
Yeah.
And then this is
Dante's one of the best contracts in the NBA.
Yeah. If the penalty is
$20 million a year player.
Look, if the penalty you have to swallow in that trade is a 2-time All-NBA player, I know the fit is bad. Like, he can run when Ant is out of the game.
Their offense was so gross; it's going to be even grosser next year. I'm actually excited to see it.
It will be, but, like, I don't know. He can keep you afloat when Ant is there. I think if Chris Finch is ballsy enough to, like, stagger Randle. Like, maybe you're right. Like, there's no way
they will. No. Yeah. You are correct. Yes. They're going to stagger those two. I just don't think there's enough minutes to be like, we can make this work kind of thing. Like, I've seen it before with the Sixers. Like, we tried it with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. Like, it's just, But anyway.
It is what it is. Yeah. By the way, that is the halfway point
Let's go.
We're cooking.
Hour and 40 minutes in.
Let's go.
Okay. So what do we think Bill and Russillo say? I think they're both kind of hate on the trade from Minnesota's perspective.
Yes. They're both going to be under.
Although part of me thinks that they might just go boomer on KAT and be like, look, I know Julius Randle. He really struggled.
Bill was trying to talk himself out of it on that Austin Rivers pod. I could hear it in his voice. He's frustrated by KAT. He's not out on KAT. You know what I'm saying?
The talent's too much. He always says that.
Yeah.
He's such a good shooter.
Yeah. So he's not he's obviously frustrated by him. I think he's probably more out on Rudy Gobert in the playoffs than he is on KAT. So I think Bill's gonna be under. I think they're both gonna wax poetic about Ant. Yeah. But they're just gonna say that this is everything we just said. They're probably gonna do the same thing we just did. Recognize this is kind of a bridge gap year. The weird ownership situation. They had to get off that KAT contract.
He showed me something. Again, this guy, he's got balls.
Bill said what I said on the stream pod too, that the interesting thing is that it also signals that you're not scared of Denver, or you don't recognize Denver as the primary competition.
As the main threat, because you got rid of the double big factor.
Exactly. So they are less of a meme team a little bit too. You know what I'm saying? I do think that they are a little bit more flexible. You know what I'm saying? We're I don't know. I don't think it's impossible that Julius Randle has a huge series against the Thunder in the playoffs. Will is gonna clip that and use it against me later. I don't know. I'm not
Here's my thing. What does Julius Randle do good?
Cook. Cook in the post while everybody else stands around
in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Once again, I'm dying on the hill that last year, or him getting hurt in this past season and not playing in the playoffs, was the best thing that could have ever happened to the Knicks.
I mean, let's be clear. We agree. I'm trying to talk myself into that. Right. My contrarian, there's too many people against this, so I need to do the exercise for myself. Yeah. What's the opposite angle and talk myself into it.
It would be really funny if Randle turns, because I've kind of done this whole thing where I scour the league for former top picks that could contribute to championship level teams like Gordon, Wiggins, that style of player. Yeah. And I'm always finding different guys to be it would be really funny if Randle turns out to be that guy. Even after he made the All-Star games and everyone was this guy's kind of a loser. Yeah. and then he just completely flips the script and the narrative. I'm not anticipating that happening.
He completely bought in. What is Julius Randle? What's his 3-point shooting?
Watch it. Yeah, he becomes a Draymond variant or something. He's just he is all right. I will say, for a 4, he's a good playmaker. The only problem is that he's not a Draymond playmaker where it's Draymond can catch it and instantly make a read and make the right pass. He's a good playmaker if you give him the ball and you let him dribble it 40 times and he can make the right read when the double team comes. That's the kind of playmaker he is.
He's not a good 3-point shooter either.
No, that's my thing. Is they have the worst 3-point shooting starting front court in the NBA if McDaniels starts.
I was hoping he was 35 on 5, because I could kind of talk myself 33? Into it. Yeah, it's more 32.
Yeah. And then McDaniels has had 1 year where he was above average and it wasn't on crazy volume. Yeah. That's why I think they should start Dante and Ant and just let them both shoot 9 threes a game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean that's what they've got to do. I know. What they probably do is just trade Randle at the deadline for 2 more rotation players.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the New Orleans Pelicans. This is a tough one.
Another really hard one. Yeah. I have to limit myself because I'm higher on the Pelicans and I've got to forget that. I'm going to say 44.5.
Ooh, 45.5. So
God damn it. I'm how many times have I been one off?
It's pretty much every one at this point. There's one you were 2 off.
God damn it. So it's 45.5, you said?
45.5. Now, Zion had a very healthy year until the play-in last year, obviously. They have removed Dyson Daniels, who barely really even had an impact for them last year when they won 42 games. They added in DeJounte Murray. They also got rid of Larry Nance, who was like weirdly good for them. Like he's washed and he probably isn't good anymore, but like his on-offs were like kind of solid just because they needed center play last year. And any 5 that like can somewhat shoot, even though he can't really shoot, is probably pretty decent with Zion, I would imagine. They have Trey Murphy, obviously, coming into a contract year. Herb Jones on one of the best contracts in the NBA. CJ McCollum's still there. Zion, Brandon Ingram's still there. They've got a ton of talent. They've got a ton of scorers. I don't know how it all fits. I don't know how it all works. Their centers are Daniel Tice and what's that other guy's name? Carlo or something? He was like a beast in Summer League.
Carlo Matkovic.
Yeah, he was like insane in Summer League and apparently has looked really good in camp too. So he might at some point be their starting center.
Yeah.
But I've never heard of him, so I can't really I've literally only watched him dominate in Summer League. I can't really say that I know much.
They have Jamal Cain on a 2-way. So watch out.
Legend.
Watch out. Yeah, Javonte Green also on this team. Just want to point out.
Yeah, he was signed late in the offseason.
I think he could contribute to this team. I'm just later on down the line. I'm just gonna say.
Where does he play though? Because we have. All right, let's just talk about their starters.
Okay.
Their starters will not what you want them to be.
Okay.
There's.
Well, that's
let's get that out of the way.
Right.
DeJounte Murray will probably start at point guard. I think one of Brandon Ingram or Herb Jones will start at the 2. And then I think Zion starts at the 4. The other one starting at the 3. And then the center is Daniel Tice. And then the 6th man is CJ McCollum. The 7th man is Trey Murphy. Does Jordan Hawkins play? Does this guy I just learned about this past summer play? Does Yves Missy play as a rookie? Probably not. He's probably their 3rd center. Does Javonte Green play? They have a lot of talent. Like I said,
didn't even bring up the GOAT.
Who?
Jose Alvarado,
who just signed an extension.
Yeah.
See, this is what I was saying about Javonte Green. I'm like, I guess he'll be a bench wing for them.
Yeah.
I guess Jordan Hawkins won't play because they'll have 9 guys if you include Jose.
Yeah. I think it's insurance if Jordan Hawkins doesn't develop. Is what I think Javonte Green is.
Yeah, and Javonte Green was actually pretty good for the Bulls the last 2 or 3 years. He's a bench wing, but
yeah, he's
injects some athleticism and defense.
Yeah, he can't play in the playoffs, obviously, but he's
the Najee Marshall theoretical replacement.
Yeah.
Najee was good for them last year. They lost Najee. I forgot about that part.
Do you want to guess where they were in point differential last year? The Pelicans?
Were they way better? Were they the inverse of the Lakers, where they were 7th in point differential, but they won 42 games?
I believe they were 6th in point differential.
Jeez.
So let me make sure. Boston, OKC, Timberwolves, Nuggets, Knicks, Pelicans. 6th.
Damn. Oh, I was looking at 2 years ago. So I was looking at the wrong year for them. They actually won 49 games last year. My apologies. I was I didn't think they only won 42 games. That's really low.
Yeah, no. They won 49 games. They just
Valanciunas is gone. Fuck, I forgot about that part.
Yeah, that's rough because I think he was actually a pretty significant contribution to their regular season.
Well, he is a center. I don't know. I don't even remember if he had a good year last year. They just lost both of their centers. I know they had the worst centers in the NBA though. That is kind of.
It's tough.
They do again.
Yeah, God bless Daniel Tice. I love him to death.
Starting in 2024 for him is kind of a tough ask.
It's we lost the conference finals to that dog shit bubble Heat team because he couldn't play, and we just didn't have a better. And that was 5 years ago. It's half a decade ago. I don't know, man. That's gonna be really tough. That's gonna be really tough.
I forgot Daniel Tice was at the Clippers last year for a little bit. I don't think that he really stood out.
He's not good anymore. He's barely a rotation player these days. He's a fine player.
He was a backup for them last year. He played 59 games, 17 minutes a game.
Yeah.
Okay, he shot pretty decent from 3, but on low volume. Yeah, I don't really think he's going to be a huge different maker. I think it's going to be similar to Jonas, where he plays 15 minutes a game, but he's the starting center, quote unquote. They might go small with Zion at the 5 some.
They need to like trade for Brandon Clark or something like that. Like,
but they weirdly like don't have the size to put Zion at the 5.
That's the thing, is they just have nobody who's like big or tall. Like, you know, like it sucks.
Trey Murphy's the only one, really. He's like 6'9", but he's kind of slender. Like,
yeah,
he's not like a 4. He's like a 3. Yeah,
he's not
like
a 4. He's a wing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know. Like, I really want to believe in this team. I might
talent is wild.
Yeah, I can't get over having. It seems impossible to me that you could have Herb Jones and Trey Murphy. They're like the perfect wings for this like NBA, and be bad. But like, they somehow didn't trade Brandon Ingram. CJ McCollum is somehow going to play like 20. CJ McCollum is going to close some games this year, and it's going to drive me fucking insane. Like, they need to waive him, essentially. Like, he can't play as like a small guard, especially with like DeJounte Murray on the team. That's like the one that's going to drive me insane. Is CJ McCollum is going to be like way too involved on this team. And again, like you said, Zion had really good health last year, and it's unlikely.
I think they could survive a Zion injury, though. That's the only difference. Is that like I think that their team is probably better built this year to survive a Zion injury than any of the other ones, because now they have 3 guys who, in theory, can scale up a little bit.
But the West is really good, though. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but their wing play will be good. Like, if Zion gets hurt, they just put Trey Murphy there, and then like you have Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, like.
I'm worried bad players are going to be taking the shots on this team. Like, DeJounte Murray and Brandon Ingram are going to be taking a lot of shots. I don't want that.
Definitely true. Yeah,
I don't want that. You know what I'm saying? Like Brandon Ingram and DeJounte Murray being on the
just
same
like the
team
Grizzlies, their spacing is bad. They weirdly have the best spacers on their team are CJ McCollum and Trey Murphy, and they're both going to be coming off the bench probably.
Yeah,
and like Herb Jones shot well last year. He's actually like a dead eye corner 3-point shooter now, but he's largely left wide open. Teams don't care about him taking threes, so it's not like that really helps your spacing.
Yeah. No.
Although maybe he makes them pay attention to him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to go under, but I do think that there's like they make one trade, and I'm kind of in on this team move. Like, they trade Brandon Ingram for someone who makes more sense, and then they're just like, I really like this team. I don't think the talent fits, and I think that they're too small.
I've gone under on the Mavs, the Warriors. I've locked the Clippers and the Lakers unders. I've gone under on the Grizzlies.
Jesus, I've gone under on a ton of teams in the West too. Mavericks, Nuggets, Rockets, Clippers, Lakers, Minnesota. I'm doing the inverse of what I did in the East, where I went over on a ton of the good teams.
Yeah.
And then I went under on every bad team, which I probably overestimated a little bit. I'm going to have to go over on one of the... I'll have to change at some point.
I think I'm going to go over. I think I'm going to make New Orleans my over team. You know, I don't feel great about it, but I want to believe in them. They're like my... New Orleans is kind of my West.
They're your X-Files team?
Yeah, they're my guys. You know what I'm saying? I want to see them do well. I love Trey Murphy and Herb Jones so much. I really want to see them succeed. Zion is maybe the most fun player to watch in the NBA at the height of his powers.
Yeah, he's great.
He's so fun to watch. Like, I want them to be good. And I despise the fact that CJ McCollum and Brandon Ingram are still on this team, and DeJounte Murray. Like, that is like too many guys that are not winning players.
I will say this much. DeJounte Murray and Herb Jones will cause a lot of turnovers.
Yes, that's true.
And they will get them easy buckets just running in transition at least 4 or 5 times a game. They're both big steals guys. They're both big deflections guys.
This is like the ultimate test of like, can perimeter defense create good interior defense?
Also, can just scoring talent overcome a lot of flaws within your roster? Because they have, like, even though DeJounte and Ingram aren't the most efficient, they have like 4 incredible, like, star-ish level scorers, 3 and then Zion, like with CJ, DeJounte, and Ingram. And then Zion as like the obvious, like, incredibly efficient, actually good offensive star.
Willie Green, I need you to meet me here. We're both millennials, man. I need you to do this for me. I need you to look at CJ in the eyes and tell him, you suck. You're playing 19 minutes a game. Like,
you know what? I'm changing this to over. Fuck it.
Let's go.
I've been out on them for a while, but I've done too many unders here, and I feel stronger about the other unders.
Yeah.
I'm going to feel stupid when the Rockets finish with a better record than the Pelicans, though.
It's totally possible.
Because I've been very in on the Rockets, and I just feel like they're like so close. But, all right. The Thunder. Wait, what did Bill and Russillo are just going to talk about Zion?
Yeah.
What did we do with Brandon Ingram?
They're going to be under. They're both going to hate this team.
They're both going to wax poetic about Herb Jones and Trey Murphy.
Yeah.
I think they'll both be under. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be like,
they're going to hate this team.
It doesn't make sense. It has 1926ers vibes to me.
Yeah.
Like the 2019-2026ers team where it just doesn't really make any sense, but there's too much talent for me to think that they can't win 46 games. So, all right. Thunder. Actually, I'm going to stop that. You have to guess the Oklahoma City Thunder. I almost said
Let's say 59.5.
56.5. Lower than I expected, to be honest.
Yeah, I kind of thought everyone was going to be like sucking them off.
They won 57 last year. They got rid of Josh Giddey, who's terrible, and was a bad fit on that team, even though they won his minutes somehow. They added in Topic, who isn't going to play for them, Caruso, who will play a lot of minutes for them, Hartenstein, who will play a lot of minutes for them. The thing about last year is that they did have incredible injury luck last year. Yeah. Like, Chet played every game. Shea didn't really miss any time. But I kind of even think that they can survive, like, an injury to one of their top three guys and still be a really good team. Like, they're like the Memphis team from a few years ago on steroids to me. This team is super deep. They're deep with, like, 10 rotation players. They have an MVP candidate. They added in 2 very good role players. They have 2 other up-and-coming rising stars. They have shooting everywhere. They have defense everywhere. This is a lock for me on the over.
It's slow, you know. Yeah. And again, like, I would love to shit on Sam Presti, and this team, and I will get there. I'm going to do it in the playoffs instead of the regular season. So,
this team's going to be a wins machine in the regular season.
Yeah, they're just going to win a lot of games. Like, they're going to be locked in. Dagnall's a good coach.
Yep.
I unfortunately might lock this too. It's you said it's 56.5.
56.5. Yeah, I think they win 59 to 62 games.
Yeah.
What do you think Bill and Russillo have to say about this team?
They are with us. They're lock. I almost guarantee Bill's going to lock it. You know.
Yeah.
So
he'll probably talk about Shea MVP a ton.
Yeah.
They just have a lot of guys.
They just have a lot of guys. Like, I think
this 3 of the best guard defenders in the NBA that can also guard wings: Caruso, Kaysen, and Dort.
We're heading for a really funny. Reckoning where they lose in round 2 of the playoffs again, and it's like, and then they start getting like they start exiting the cool zone. Like, people start like breaking down like
Sixers post-Hawks series. These fucking losers.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, people start like looking at J-Dub, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
instead of just being like, this is maybe the best Western Conference we've ever seen, and also they are still young. Like, I know they have a lot more veteran talent now just by adding Hartenstein and Caruso, but like, Caruso's the oldest player on the team and he's 30, and everyone else is like 26 and under.
Yeah. Sorry, I got distracted by reading Piss saying Trey Murphy for Mitchell Robinson, which is,
he's a Knicks fan. He's trolling.
I know he's a Knicks fan, but
did you see that report?
I did see that report.
Incredible work. Honestly, they are reaching levels. The Knicks have reached levels of propaganda. After the trade, I said this on Twitter, but I said the CIA blushes at the propaganda that is leaked post trade from teams. The Karl Anthony Towns leak was weird because they were like, he was stunned that he was getting traded. And I was like, I've said on this podcast, I've heard he's been trying to force his way to the Knicks all off season. Like, this has been in the works for like 6 months.
Yeah.
And that we're just now hearing about it. And like, basically the only reason Minnesota held out this long was because they wanted Dante and they wouldn't give them Dante. And basically after the Mitchell Robinson injury, they just lost all their leverage in the talks. Yeah. And they were like, all right, well, we have to include him now. And we'll go from there. And then from the Knicks side, the leaks that were like, Dante DiVincenzo didn't want to lose his starting spot. And I'm like, well, he might not start on the Timberwolves.
Yeah.
And also, like, you're trying to tell me that he doesn't want to play with his college teammates? Like, I don't know. That sounds like made up bullshit to me.
Yeah. It's not realistic. Not realistic. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I don't. The Thunder aren't super interesting to me. I think everyone's going to suck them off, unfortunately, including me. I have no choice. Because I do believe that they are going to.
Well, you said you were like they're their Derek White move away, their Porzingis or Drew Holiday move away, and it's not to say that Caruso and Hartenstein are like all-star, all NBA, but they're such good fits and they're great role players. Yeah. So.
They addressed like exactly what they needed to address. You know, Caruso is just like a better player than Dort. Like, and like that just makes it. They've got a lot of lineup switchability. Like you can play Chet at the floor at 4 and go jumbo. Hartenstein is shown to be like a very effective playoff player, particularly around like a talented roster. I think they nailed it. Unfortunately. We'll see in the playoffs. We'll see what happens when we get there, but I do think they're probably going to win 60 games. So,
all right, the Phoenix Suns.
Oh, guess this is going to be hard. Oh, fuck. I'm going to go with my gut. I'm going to say it's 46.5.
47.5.
God damn it! Again. Oh, son of a bitch! I got to get one of these. So, I thought I was going high, though. I thought it should be like 45.5.
So they're 47.5. Yep. They always, because it just felt like everything was so off for them last year. Yep. It always surprises me when I look at like where they ranked in like offense and defense. Their offense was a little underwhelming. Their defense was like way better than you expected. And they finished with 49 wins. They were the 6th seed with 49 wins last year.
That was like kind of nuts though, because like they had like a really hard schedule, but they also like at the end of the year, but also like everyone was kind of locked in at that point.
They won a few games late to like make a jump out of the play-in. They were in the play-in range, and then they won like a few big games down the stretch of the season, and they even talked me back into them. I was like, oh man, maybe they were just like kind of coasting in the regular season. But the reality about this team is that their roster is largely the same. They added in Tyus Jones and Ryan Dunn in the draft. Their core pieces are still, you know, Beal, Nurkic, Durant, Booker. They brought back Royce O'Neal, who they traded for at the deadline last year. Grayson Allen's still on this team. Bol, as people are pointing out, will be playing big minutes for them next year with Budenholzer as coach instead of Vogel. Vogel was the scapegoat. He was a one-and-done coach, but, like, he had them in the top 15 in defense, which with this personnel is incredible.
Insane. Yeah,
they had no defensive wings last year outside of Josh Okogie, who's, like, completely useless on offense.
That is, like, insane. Like, Vogel actually did, like, a pretty good job.
All things considered, like
again, poor Vogel, dude. All he does is, like, coach pretty good teams and get fucking shafted for it. Like,
they have the smallest starting lineup in the NBA, I feel like. Like, the 1 through 3 is Tyus Jones, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker. And then, like, Kevin Durant is, he's 7 foot, but, like, he doesn't play like a 7-footer anymore, really. No. And then Nurkic is, like, also a solid 7 foot. He's a big guy, he's a big guy, but he's also pretty washed. And, like, actually kind of overperformed last year, despite being, like, somewhat washed and looking terrible in the playoffs. Like I said, 47.5. They won 49 last year. West is better.
I'm locking the under.
Yeah, I'm going under here.
I'm like locking it. I'm like 47 is just.
I was gonna say
I think they're gonna be like a 500 team.
I was gonna say, are we overreacting to their kind of weird year last year? Budenholzer will, make the team better. They'll have a lot more spacing with O'Neal and Grayson probably coming off the bench now. All that stuff. I just don't think you can win 50 games in the modern NBA if you have no good wings. Like, Devin Booker's going to have to be a wing now.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, they do have Kevin Durant, but like,
sure.
Kevin
Durant's a pretty good wing.
Yeah, he's a pretty good wing. Yeah.
I guess I meant more like two-way, like, when I think of, like, the reason why I was higher on the Knicks before was, like, even though I picked their under, like, I still think they're going to be a really good team. The OG Bridges combination. The Sixers got Paul George. The Jays. The Thunder have J-Dub and I guess what's his name? Shea's kind of a guard, but he's wing sized. Like, they really just have Kevin Durant, and then the rest of, like, is Ryan Dunn going to play for this team? Like, Josh Okogie, like, they're all very limited offensively. I don't know. I think that they have a lot of scoring talent. I'm not buying in on this team being anything more than, like, they're 47.5. I'm going to say they win 43 games, 44 games. Yeah.
Okay. So Yusuf Nurkic played 76 games last year.
Oh my God. Who's their backup center? Is it Bol?
Yes.
They said they're going to play him at the 4.
He played, I just want to finish this Nurkic point. Okay. He played 79 games in 2017. Okay. So that was the most. So then last year was the second. He did play 72 in 2018. Here's every other season in the NBA for Yusuf Nurkic. 52, 56, 37, 8, 65, 32, 62.
Yeah. I mean, if he gets hurt, their starting center is going to be a rookie, Oso.
Yeah.
Yeah. This team doesn't have depth. They have way too many guards, not enough wings or bigs. This team
like Yusuf Nurkic played 76 games last year and you were still only 145. There's no way that happens.
Oh, Plumlee? This changes everything. He's their backup.
Mason Plumlee.
I think he's a fine backup. But if he's your starting center, you're going to be cooked.
Is that true?
They did sign him to a veteran's minimum. Yeah, I do remember that.
Okay.
Yeah, he left the
Clippers. Yeah, I guess that's fine. And then you have Monte Morris.
Monte Morris isn't going to play, though. They have too many guards.
He should play over Bradley Beal.
He also wasn't good last year. That's another thing, is that he was, and like Tyus Jones is just the better version of him. I don't think he would have signed there if he knew that Tyus Jones was going there. Tyus Jones going on a veteran's minimum was kind of a twist.
The fuck is Moses Wood?
I don't even know who that is.
He's apparently a rookie, but was born in 1999.
So he's like 25?
He's like 25, yeah.
Moses Wood. I can't say I am familiar with his game.
His colleges are listed as Tulane, UNLV, University of Portland, and Washington. This guy is so educated. This man has so many degrees.
Damn.
He was just in like many master's programs.
By the way, we're over 2 hours in, so I don't want to go too long on this.
Okay.
I watched a college football game the other day, and there was a 31-year-old punter. Enough. If you're in your 30s, go start a family. Go start
a podcast.
Do a podcast. That's what I did when I turned 30, and it worked out.
Yeah, we're fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going well.
Do back
Get a life.
Do we think
people in their 20s?
Yeah.
Stop
seriously.
it.
Get out of here. Do we think? What do we think Bill and Russillo do here?
Both under.
Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked if Bill talked himself into an over.
Coach Bud.
Yeah.
Coach Bud action.
A little zag. He'll call it. I think I might zag here. He might talk himself into a zag.
Little Coach Bud. You like that house?
You like that zag. I realized I didn't write down the Orlando line when we did this last time. What was Orlando's?
We'll get to that. Don't worry about it. We'll get to it later.
Okay.
Let's just run through these last few teams.
Okay.
The Portland Trailblazers. What do you think?
I'm going to say 26.5.
Oh, 21.5.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I know the West is good, but that's pretty low.
I mean, I think Klingon will be good as a rookie. Like, I think he's going to be. I think the 3 rookies I think will have a pretty instant impact are Reed, Edey, and Klingon.
They won 21 games last year.
Yeah, I mean, they won 21 games and they had a ton of injuries. Once again, Scoot was the worst player in the NBA. I hope he isn't this year for their sake. Sharp was
Denny.
out. I don't know. They added Denny Abdia.
I don't think
they
they're
added Klingon.
I don't think they're going to be like
someone has
worst team in the league.
West, though. That is the one point. Someone has to lose games. I still think they'll win like 24 or 25 games.
Yeah, that's what I just they're not going to be like terrible. I don't think. Yeah. I think like you said, I think they're more like 26, 27, somewhere in there. Like so.
This is the last year that they will be tanking, though. So I wouldn't be shocked if they lean into the tank at some point. I don't think it's going to be 21 games.
I think they're too talented. Like, what does tanking look like?
No, I know.
Yeah,
like you might shut down guys, but also like
then what Tumani Kumara plays, he's good. Like you know what I'm saying? Like even when they're like tanking, they still have like real NBA players on their roster. Like I don't know. I think it's going to be hard to.
Yeah, I'm going over for them. I think that they're the fact that they're going to be the worst or the second worst team in the West shows you how good the West is. Shows you how much better the league is than it used to be. I've said this time and time again. Even with I know they have a bunch of guys that are like just buckets and only care about scoring, like Jeremy Grant and Anthony Simmons and all that shit. This team still would have won like 50 games 10 years ago if you dropped them in. DeAndre Ayton, like they just have too many guys. They have too many guys not to win a ton of games like 10 years ago. So, Sacramento Kings. Oh, yeah.
Bill and Russillo.
I guess they'll be over. I mean, it's so low.
I think they'll talk themselves into it.
The line is so low.
Like, it's really low. Like
for a team that's like pretty talented.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will think the point that they'll hit on is what does Scoot look like in year 2? Russillo will talk about how much he loved him in the draft. They'll both like Klingon. And then more importantly, they'll probably talk about like where does Simmons fit on this team, and then most importantly,
feels like a trade team to me.
Is Chauncey Billups the worst coach in the NBA? How does he still have a job?
Yeah,
yeah, that will be.
Is Jeremy Grant on this team at the trade deadline?
Yeah, that will happen too.
Yeah,
which I wouldn't be shocked if he does get traded, to be honest. But
is Robert Williams on this team at the trade deadline?
Oh God, I forgot he was on this team.
Pelicans could use him.
I think that they both think that the Robert Williams experience is over, but let's go Sacramento Kings.
Okay. Let's go 42.5.
46.5.
Really? Huh.
Another team that has a lot of talent. We're fighting this a lot. Minnesota Timberwolves, Pelicans, this team, ton of scoring talent. Don't know how it fits at all because we just added DeMar DeRozan to a team that already has De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis.
Honestly, I kind of forgot about that because it's just such a nothing to me. Like,
they drafted Devin Carter, but he won't play because he's injured till like February. The only moves that they made were like they traded for the other McDaniels. They traded Davion Mitchell for the other McDaniels.
They did win 46 games last year somehow.
They won 46 games, and everyone was like disappointed because they were so good 2 years ago. But they only won, if I remember correctly, they only won like 49 games 2 years ago.
Yeah,
the West was just way worse.
Way worse. Yeah, exactly. Maybe I was just this one. I might have just generally been way off on because I was like thinking that they won like 42 games last year.
Everyone keeps talking up like, oh well, at the end of games they're gonna have Fox or DeMar, like 2 clutch players. And it's like
I don't think clutch is real, like especially in the regular season.
I mean, they have. I think they both won a Clutch Player of the Year award.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think that's like a real thing to like depend on, though. I don't know.
I don't know how this works at all. They weirdly have a bunch of guys who can shoot and defend with Keon Ellis. Like they have guys that fit a little bit. Herter's still on this team.
Yeah, I was just gonna say a lot of their guys did play pretty bad last year in a way that like.
Harrison Barnes is gone, but that's a positive.
Yeah, like I think they're going to have some of the bounce back years. I do like Keegan a lot. I think Keegan's a great player.
I do kind of lower on my rankings, but like I feel like I could see them like being a really good regular season team.
I'm kind of talking myself into it as I'm like thinking
a little bit,
yeah.
Which is weird because I hate the fit between DeMar and Sabonis.
Oh, it's so
like
bad.
It is like, but like also like ultimate floor raisers in the regular season.
Yeah.
It is weird. Like they have a ton of offensive firepower. Their defense is going to be bad, but I think that they might be able to recreate the thing that they did 2 years ago, where they just have a ton of creation a ton of Malik Monk is still coming off the bench. Like their defense will be like 20th, but they'll probably have like a top 4 offense.
Who did they draft?
Devin Carter, but he's not going to play. He's out until February.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. Now you just said that too.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I love Devin Carter, but I don't think he's going to make an impact at all this year. I'm going to go over. Fuck it.
Okay.
It makes no sense. I actually have been fading this team all offseason, but the more we talk about it, the more I'm like, they care so much about the regular season, and they just got another regular season tryhard. In DeMar. DeMar is like the most like, I will play 40 minutes a game and die on the court. They're going to be, they might win 47 games and get swept in the first round.
Yeah. I'll be the Grinch and go under. I don't know, just 47's a little rich for my blood, but I think it's like possible. It's definitely possible.
Okay, I said I was going over too much, but I actually balanced it out. So I think we're doing well. Let's get Bill and Russillo's take on this. I mean, I'm like really skeptical of this team. Like, I don't know how you can. Keegan Murray and Keon Ellis are both good on defense.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can make even like not the worst defense in the NBA with Sabonis and DeMar. Like, pretty bad.
It's Sabonis and DeMar that it's like Kevin
Monk
Huerter
off the bench and Kevin Huerter. Like it is tough. But there, once again, I've talked about how like a few years ago the Grizzlies like racked up wins, just really giving a shit every night.
Yeah,
and I do believe that matters in the regular season.
Yeah,
I think that is like their key to winning this many games is literally like
being
no one's going to give
being
the try-hard team that's like a track meet every game, basically. Yeah. Exhausting teams, beating you in all these different ways.
Mike Brown is that type of coach, I think.
Yep.
Like, I think Mike Brown will, like, coach them that way.
Yeah.
So, I like Mike Brown, by the way. I think Mike Brown's, like, a really good coach. Like,
yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, all right. So, what do we think Russillo and Bill do?
I think they're weirdly in on Bill. I think is weirdly in on this team. Like so Bill likes
except for me or except for you.
Yeah, except for and I think Russillo will probably talk himself into it too. So
okay. The San Antonio Spurs.
It's this one I feel like I did see because I have 38.5 in my head for some reason.
It's 36.5.
Okay. It's still way too high.
Yeah, I think this team's gonna win like 30 games. By the way, Devin Vassell might be out to start the season, and he's their second best player.
All right, well, maybe I'll take you over then.
They have one good player. I'm literally not joking. They have a single good player on this team. He is very, very good.
Yeah,
this is under lock for me.
Locking it. Okay.
I'm locking this. I think they win 30. I think everyone is getting way too out ahead of themselves.
Yes.
I think this team stinks. I think Chris Paul will install a little bit of fascism that will help them win some games. I think that they just don't have nearly enough talent for this Western Conference.
I completely agree with everything you just said. The other under locks that I've made, I believe in more. So I'm not going to lock this one. I'm already at 6.
I don't even if Wemby's the best player in the NBA, I don't think they can win 37 games. I think this team
Zach Collins is a starter.
Yeah.
No.
Like if Vassell misses the start of the year, their second best player is Keldon Johnson, Chris Paul.
Oh my God.
Harrison Barnes. Like this team sucks.
Doug McDermott.
Doug McDermott isn't even on the team anymore. He's a free agent.
Is he?
No, they traded him halfway through last year.
Yeah. What? Stephen Castle. Stephon Castle.
Stephon Castle is a rookie. I don't see it.
No.
Yeah.
He probably will be more of an impact rookie than like other guys like that, but like
maybe defensively he could be pretty good. Yeah.
Anyway, I think Bill is over.
Bill's definitely over. It's funny because Bill was very negative on our Eastern Conference one when we did this, but he's very positive on the West. I think they're both over, actually. I think that they're going to be.
I think Russillo talks himself into under.
Okay.
I think Russillo will be more measured. Like
Wemby, this guy, what he did in the Olympics, man, almost beating Team USA by himself.
Yeah.
I mean, that means something to me.
I mean, like, look, I looked at the number. Like, it's
Chris Paul's on the team, though.
And like Devin Vassell, is out. Like, I forgot Chris Paul is on fucking.
But
team.
has he dropped the Chris Paul? Has Russillo finally given up on Chris Paul?
I do think he's kind of given up. The Chris Paul ghost, though.
He's 40 years old. They missed the playoffs last year in Golden State. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think Russillo goes on. Russillo knows the West is too good to take the over on this. Yeah. All right, the last one. The Utah Jazz.
Dog, I was looking at their roster earlier.
Dog shit.
Oscar Tshiebwe is on this roster.
Let's go.
Let's fucking go, dude. He's like 26 years old, by the way. He came out of college like 2 years ago.
National Player of the Year.
Yeah, National Player of the Year, Oscar Tshiebwe. I'm going to say that this is 27.5.
Okay, it's a little bit higher, actually. I think it's 28.5. 28.5.
Oh, damn it. Half off again.
So what did they do this offseason? Nothing? They drafted guys.
Yeah, they drafted guys. And they had a good draft.
They did have a good draft. They got Filipowski, Collier.
Who was their high draft pick? They had a high draft pick too, right?
I don't even remember who they took high in the draft. I remember the late picks being like, oh, those are good picks. How am I forgetting who they took
how
high?
am I forgetting? Yeah, they took someone. They didn't they
Cody Williams. Never mind.
That's what it was.
Their draft stunk. No.
They have like too many young guys though. Like you know what I'm saying? Like the guy I used to like, the power forward that didn't play at all last year. Florida guy. Power forward didn't play. He's like a shooter.
Oh, Hendricks?
Yes, Taylor Hendricks.
Taylor Hendricks was like underwhelming in summer league. Like
that's what I'm saying. Like he might just be bad. You know what I'm saying? Like I liked him like coming out of the draft.
I think Colin Sexton is their second best player after Larry Markkinen. It's either him or Walker Kessler, right? And Walker Kessler doesn't really play.
Yeah, it's not sure as shit isn't Jordan Clarkson anymore.
No.
Yeah, it's
this is going to be a young tank for Cooper Flag team.
Yes,
they don't want to win.
They're still trying to. They're doing they're kind of low key, kind of becoming a Pistons West, where they just can't get the star guy. They keep getting all of these young guys who are hypothetically good, but the team is going to continue to be bad.
Well, they just refuse to lean into the tank, but now they don't really have a choice. Their team just isn't good enough. They've kind of created the perfect roster. It's kind of similar to the Bulls where they can lie to everyone and say, we're going to try really hard, but they're going to suck.
I don't know. I'm skeptical that them quote unquote leaning into the tank would have changed much for them. The odds are so flat now. What's the difference between getting from 10th to 5th in odds is really not that big of a difference odds-wise anymore.
Yeah, but they started the year 2 years ago with they refused to trade away Mike Conley. They won too many games that year. If they had just thrown a little bit, if they had made those trades before the year instead of – they made a win-now trade, basically, trading Bojan for Kelly Olynyk 2 years ago.
That was insane. I mean, don't get me wrong. That was fucking absurd.
Yeah.
And didn't they – whatever they traded for Kelly Olynyk fucking sucked, too. What did they – they traded Ochai Agbaji and
Kelly Olynyk for the pick that became Isaiah Collier.
Yeah, yuck.
I mean,
I don't like this. One of my worst calls ever saying the Jazz were going to be good before the.
I mean, they just don't really have a plan. It seems like they're just kind of we're going to quote unquote compete, but now, like I said, they're going to be bad against their will. Someone needs to lose games in the West. It's going to be them or Portland at the bottom of the standings.
Portland's a better team, way more talented team.
And I think Portland has more talent now. I think they've passed them in talent, and their talent is further along too. Yeah. They're going to be playing a lot. I think that it's good for Utah to have a year like this, to be clear. I think it's good to just be see what you have, kind of go from there.
But they did things remember when they just took John Collins for no reason?
Yeah, they still have him.
Yeah.
He's still around.
It just banished to purgatory.
I was like, oh man, maybe this is a genius move by Danny Ainge. No, it turns out he just sucks.
Yeah, he's just terrible. He just took the Hawks problem for no reason.
Yeah.
At no cost.
Yeah. Not a second round pick to do it. But
terrible.
But I honestly I'd make the argument that Kyle Filipowski might actually be Filipowski might be their second or third best player next year. And I think long term he's gonna be pretty good. But next year, I think they're going to stink. I think I'm going under here for sure. under 28.5. I think
Yeah,
they win 25
under
games.
under 20. Yeah, no, they're going to be bad. I can't believe Portland. It's 7 games more than Portland's. That's nuts.
They have been better the last 2 years, but they also
I
just keep
guess.
getting rid of veteran players.
Yeah, I don't know. They also might finally trade. Oh no, they can't trade Lowry in season, right? This year.
They can't trade Lowry in season. No, a year from now they could trade Lowry Markkanen.
Okay.
Yeah,
And that is when they'll do it. So,
Bill and Russillo are gonna have nothing to say about this team.
No.
They're gonna be like, "Who cares?"
yeah.
They're gonna be like,
Bryce, you excited about Johnny Juzang house?
"Bryce Sensabaugh? They got some guys I know.
Yeah.
They always draft.
Jason Preston.
Let's go."
That's Ben Simmons, my son. That's his friend.
He was a blogger. He used to be in high school. He was a Pistons blogger.
Wait, really?
I'm not doing a bit.
Oh my God! No way. They have a
He
blogger.
was drafted. I remember them being like, he at one point was an NBA blogger, which is the worst thing you can be.
25-year-old rookie. Let's go.
Let's go. All right.
Also born in 99. Awesome.
We've been going for 2.5 hours. So
Do you want to run through just real quick and the locks?
what our over-unders were? Oh, I
Well,
only
I
did
can
one
do
lock because I didn't. What did I lock in the? Well,
You thought about the Denver one, I think you said, which was 50.5. You thought about
Yeah, I'm locking that. I'm
locking the over.
Denver
The
lock all over. Spurs under all lock. Those are my two.
You did that. Okay, so I think you have 5 locks and I have 6.
Okay.
So I can get rid of one of my locks too.
Get rid of one of your locks. What are your locks?
Suns under lock, Raptors under lock, OKC over lock, Lakers and Clippers under locks, and Atlanta over lock.
You locked Atlanta's over? Oh,
You
they
did
did
too.
have a really low. They had a really
You
low
did
one.
too.
I forgot they had.
Yeah.
They had a really low one. Yeah,
30,
they had
35 and a half. Yeah.
35.5. Yeah, they're gonna definitely win.
I'll remove the Phoenix under lock, but I still feel very strongly about that one. So
Okay.
I'll
All right.
keep
What was my
mine.
other lock?
You had the Sixers over lock at 52.5.
Mhm.
And you had the Atlanta over lock, and you had the OKC over lock.
All right. We'd love to see it. All
You're
right.
doing good. All right. Is this the year I finally dethrone the hateful Trill?
Let's go. Let's get
Or,
it.
or do I lose it believing in my beautiful Pelicans?
Let's get it.
Yeah.
I also went over on that, so you can't lose. You can't lose on that.
Yeah. Let me just real quick identify the one that I'm going to lose on here. I know it's going to happen. Shoot. It's probably going to be Golden State. My Golden State under and your Golden State over.
Let's
I
go.
think that's the one that loses it for me this year.
Let's get it. All right. We'll be back for the Patreon episode later this week. And if there's any major news that happens, we'll be on playback and on Patreon. So, bye.
Bye-bye.